Reveille, reveille.
Look at us now, tip to...
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
To us, doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah, this is our life. This is our passion. We'll be here for the next 2 hours. Hey, it's Morning Kombat, back in your face hole on this Monday, May 12th, 2025, looking to sweep up, wrap up, and ship out all things post-analysis to UFC 315 in Montreal. Brian Campbell, that BBC with that BDE, one half of your hosting duo. Let me check these levels. All right, here we go. I'm back. That guy from Washington, D.C., he's a little tired, a little ornery, but nobody brings it in a hot and sweaty bathroom out of Joseph A. Banks, quite like Washington, D.C.'s Luke Thomas.
This job is going to send me to an early grave.
You think so?
Yeah, yeah. And when I say this job, I mean, staying, like, late nights, early mornings. People will be like, oh, we would love to have your job. Don't get me wrong. I love this job, too. It's not that I don't love the job. I love the job. But the 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. bit from Saturday night to Sunday, it's gonna send me to an early grave.
Maybe it's also your life habits, just possibly, sir.
No, I didn't drink or do anything crazy.
I will say, though, that this fantastic episode of Morning Kombat is brought to you by DraftKings. And as always with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Thank you for everybody watching.
I just want to be clear.
On the DraftKings Network,
Yes.
live on YouTube, maybe in somebody's ear hole at the grocery store. Luke, be clear with the people.
No. I love the job. I'm just saying my body is frail and broken.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to get up at 4 a.m. after going to bed at 4 a.m. the previous day.
You just got to keep fighting. You just got to keep after it.
That's it.
Just like Belal, that guy went through hell to try to hold on to that championship.
Do we have a picture of his split lip?
Can we just show that early? Can we show this early Dana White submitted picture on the social media web? Oh my God.
Dude, that is
broken nose, broken orbital bone, and a split lip on par.
That is
with Robbie Lawler
against
Rory.
Yeah.
And Overeem against
Curtis Blades.
Who was the Overeem?
No, it was Rosenstrike, wasn't it?
Oh, you're right. Yes. I forget about that because he was beating Rosenstrike really for the majority of that bout, and then at the end it kind of fell apart.
Yeah, that happened to a couple. Once Overeem, after the Brock fight, Overeem had a couple of those curveballs where he's completely in control, winning the fight, and then he gets knocked out.
But I will say this, not a B-plus card on Saturday, but not a disaster that people were expecting. I don't think that's true.
There were highs and lows, but there was some fire to it. There was
for a main card to have 4 decisions and for you to feel like, all right, that was okay.
Yeah.
I think is something to note.
Yeah, indeed. You can follow us at the social handles that you see at the bottom of your screen. We approve of you liking the video on YouTube, subscribing to what we do, whether you access this on YouTube or on your favorite audio home there. Let's spread the word on the MK. Can we get the subscriber total on YouTube up over the threshold that we're currently stuck to? Like we're Han Solo and Frozen Carbonite? I mean, who's to blame? Is it our comedic choices?
Wait, what?
We're stuck. We're stuck on that number.
Oh, no. It's because you need things beyond the show to grow the channel itself. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, you can check out our other things we do there with our YouTube channels as well. You heard quickly the voice of the third member of our team. He's a producer, director, bong specialist, degenerate gambler, and the direct son of some horned-up Aussie guy who came to the States and was like, yo, I'm going to spread this seed. It's Luke Nocita.
What's up, guys? Saw my dad yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Did not mention that you guys talk about his ball sack, but I did mention that we got 2 Aussie champs. He was mildly excited. All right.
Okay, Long Island Luke was fired up when he came in this morning. He's like, 2 Aussie champs.
Yeah.
People
love your Francis Ngannou jokes.
I mean, you got.
They were hitting me up about your Francis Ngannou jokes.
There wasn't multiple jokes, but sometimes you take a chance. I mean, the punchline, the word punch is supposed to. Then sometimes we have to regret it.
I think you're a good person, but I don't know if others do. BC. I think you're a good person.
You gotta keep people second guessing you your whole life. That's what I found.
I've been very good at that.
Yeah.
I've excelled. I have excelled in many ways doing that.
Maybe I'll retire that line of joking along with the Dale Senior jokes.
I like the Dale Senior jokes.
Yeah. because it attacks Whitey. That's why.
No, it's just a thing that I never would have considered, and then you made it a part of the show, and now I feel like we have to keep doing it.
Yeah. That's our show,
Maybe
guys.
we can pump the brakes on the Ngannou jokes, though,
I think
yeah?
we can be done with that.
There's going to be 9/11 jokes today later in the show.
No. This show is about two things: boxing and mixed martial arts, but not usually about boxing. Mostly mixed martial arts.
And 9/11 jokes,
and that as well. Did you have a nice weekend overall? Did Tukes get to hit the splash pad yet? I mean, where are we at with
It's
this?
not warm enough for that. It was warm enough for that yesterday, but it wasn't Saturday. Saturday we went out and we spent the whole weekend like trying to get outside because it was such nice weather.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it. And yesterday we did a little bit of a picnic with the fam.
And then you had a great dinner out.
Oh my God, dude! I had the most disappointing Mother's Day dinner
Oh, boy.
bro. Ever.
Wow.
It was so fucking bad. It was supposed to be.
How bad was it?
Well, I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to kill the place, but
Yeah.
it's a place that has one New York City location and one DC location.
Okay.
And this was supposed to be like, all my friends in New York were like, dude, you got to go. And now that it's in DC, you got to go. You got to go. So I took my wife there, and it was not cheap, and it was terrible dinner. So everything was great about the weekend, BC, except for that. That really sucked.
I'm sorry to hear that, Luke. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you can pay it back to them in their restroom.
I'm going to pay back to them on Yelp.
Okay. All right, there we go. Enough weirdness, enough grossness. Thank you for supporting this show. How about that pregame preview we did last week with Chuck?
I had a great time.
Yeah, outside of the dark humor turn, we had a great time in here with our friends from Cuervo, though. So I'm wearing the shirt. I'm representing the brand. Shout it out. Live it up. Love it. Let's get into the show with topic number one. It is UFC 315 pay-per-view recap here from Montreal, as they like to say it, over the weekend. And in that main event, of course, the welterweight hierarchy switched hands once again as Belal Muhammad, coming off of that lengthy foot injury, entering his first title defense, got into, as we showed off the top of this show, a compelling, gnarly war there with Jack Della Maddalena, but it was the Australian who outslugged him en route to scoring the decision, capturing the welterweight title. So, Luke, considering Jack Della had been off for 14 months, was fresh off a trio of close fights that we talked about, it made him a kind of like a previously an afterthought in this era of the big names that are popping up in this division, from Ian Gary making the move, Shavkat, and etc. But after 25 minutes on Saturday, he turned the division upside down. What would you pinpoint as the most impressive part of what Della Maddalena did, walking in there, all that time off, coming in as the underdog, and then walking out as the rightful champion?
Man, it would be wrong to not cite, I think, the full suite of things you expect from an A-level fighter. You know, when you get an A-level fighter in a UFC championship fight, you expect them to come in shape. You expect them to be, you know, and this is partly a function of luck, but you expect them to be moderately healthy. You expect them to have a good game plan. You expect them to be able to at least in part execute on that to make even if you lose, you certainly challenged and made an account of yourself. You expect them to have the right attitude. You expect them to do media. You expect them to do the kinds of things that A-level fighters do, both in their professional responsibilities in and then also outside of the cage. And he did all of that. Like, if we're just talking about what Jack did he make a big noise before the fight? No, and that's not his personality. But BC, everything he did it was the full package of things.
It was elite. It was like the full bloom. It was like we kind of overlooked him. He's all grown up in front of us.
Even the funny thing that we were talking about this before the show, one of the things that, you know, there are a few guys in MMA and ladies too that have iconic walkouts with their music, and Volk coming out to Men at Work is certainly, for me, one of them.
Yeah.
You know, Max Holloway coming out to Hawaiian Kickboxers, another one of those. But Jack coming out with a mean mug on his face to the Bon Scott era of AC/DC, TNT, dude, was so sick. Like, this is what I mean. Like, from the minute, if you didn't pay attention to anything pre-fight, you just tuned in Saturday night, from the minute you laid eyes on Jack Della Maddalena as he walked out to the cage, he just had a certain kind of posture, swag, attitude, confidence, belief. He physically looked ready. But to really answer that question, BC, we have to talk about, I think, the grappling and the wrestling, because it's not necessarily, I think, to most observers, a great surprise that JDM was better on the feet. I will say Belal made a decent account of himself on the feet.
Oh, he was courageous as hell out there.
I mean, more than just taking a beating. Like, there were times he landed on he nearly shut Jack's right eye. That's not nothing. But to me, and this is a big part of the debate, I keep hearing people say, oh, Belal didn't want to wrestle because what he wanted to do was prove a point. I think that is not, there is probably some evidence for that.
It plays a part.
I think it plays a part. It's not, to me, let me be clear, it's not an all or nothing thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think if you make it an all or nothing thing in either direction, you're probably going to mess it up. But I'd also believe people only use the tools of observations that are accessible to them. And it's not to say that I can look at this and, oh, I see everything. No, there's tons of stuff I'm sure I'm missing as well. But I think a lot of fans just hear what they were saying on the broadcast and they just kept talking about like why Belal's not shooting. And I think they overplayed it a little bit. So here's what I want to say. Were there more opportunities for Belal to shoot or to wrestle or to engage in that kind of thing? Yes. There was. He left some food on the table. You can't really argue he didn't. However, two responses. One, in the round where he did the most of that, he took the most amount of a beating.
Sure.
Right? Because once Jack separates from you and you're up against the fence, he tees off on you. The two are related. They are not coincidental. Part of the reason why I think he was more reluctant to do it played that role. But BC, you asked what JDM did that made the difference. And the answer was he fought with an absolutely excellent game plan and he shored up his defensive grappling in ways
In a big way.
at every fucking level. Let's go through it if we can.
Yeah.
Let's go through it. In round 5, when he had JDM on the ground, he used the giggler or the knee lever sweep to create space and stand up. So now if we're flat on our back, he's creating space. I showed Long Island Luke from the Whizzer, the Harai Goshis he was throwing.
Yeah.
That's where you put your leg across both of theirs.
You touched him a lot during that
And
sequence.
you touching is part of life, BC.
Yeah,
You've
okay.
touched my soul in ways.
If you want to recreate it, we probably could. You know?
And using that to create space in the clinch was one. Belal shooting, Jack faking like he's going for a switch to get Belal to release his grip, and then standing. Using frames in the clinch. Using a split base in the clinch. But more importantly than that, we did tape study on my Substack, BC.
We did.
We did.
Oh, wait, you did.
Well, what we found is that what JDM really lacked in prior to this fight was what I call first-order takedown defense, where you're not just sprawling your feet behind you, but you are greeting the person trying to take you down at the point of contact with defense. What he did before was Burns, for example, and I know his arm was messed up in that one, JDM's, but
A broken forearm.
yes. But the point I'm trying to make is it didn't just happen in that fight. It was other ones too. They would get underneath him, attack his hips, and he would be forced to extricate himself from a bad place, which, as I just mentioned, he did in this fight too. The big difference was his ability to create scrambles underneath and in the clinch, and more to the point, to greet offense with defense at the point of contact, such that Belal was deterred heavily. People are like, he didn't shoot. He shot in every round but the third. He tried takedowns in all 5. Go back and watch. I rewatched it with a fine-tooth comb.
There was nothing there for him because when he did get Jack down, Jack's ability to squirm out of the way, get that right kick, all these things you're saying.
This is not Leon Edwards, where Leon was getting pressed up against the fence and he was able to shoot underneath his arms, and now Leon is trying to press his way out of it. No. And then the last piece, BC, in addition to the first-order takedown defense that he got better, his shot selection, using teeps, using jabs, all that stuff to keep it at range, but his lateral movement and in-cage positioning, he was almost never outside the black lines. Leon Edwards, we're like, oh, well, he got Leon down. The fight starts and Leon just backs up to the fence. That's just not what JDM did for 25 minutes. It is a comprehensively good game plan to aid both the strength of his striking and to shore up all the deficiencies with his grappling and his wrestling defense. And it left Belal, who could have wrestled more, but in general, it left him in a very, very unenviable place.
And I like how Belal reacted to that challenge. He tried to meet it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't think he's going to have that same success. You're going to expend a lot of energy. So I think he got to a certain point where the plus minus on what was going to come back from using the effort to get those takedowns wasn't there. Look, he fought his balls off to stay in that. Is there a backdoor 3-2 Belal scoring argument?
No.
I don't tend to believe
Dude, you
that.
could score that one 5-0.
But
Jack
I think
if
you could have given him 3 and 4. But shout out to Jack in the 5th round when Jack's the one who doesn't have the reputation for going 5 rounds, and it's Belal, the boring decision guy. Well, it's like, how are you going to call Belal boring all the time? Then he goes out there and does this performance. Like that turned out to be his best pathway to victory for Belal, and he came pretty damn close. But it only showed even more why Jack, and you don't know it until you see it, was truly ready to be a champion, because those were such the behavior of him throughout the whole process screamed champion. It's sort of like kind of like how DDP came on the scene, and you're like, he's a little raw, he's a little, this and that. But the poise and the I got this feeling, dude, Jack had that. Like, he was in control of that, even when it got close, even when he was taking some damage and his eye was closing. His ability to just stay calm, deliver, and you saw that in the post-fight interview. Like, it's just matter of fact, couple-word answer. The dude speaks softly, but he's got a warrior spirit, and the way he leveled up his skills was hella impressive. Let's hear from Jack himself about what went right in this fight.
First of all, congratulations on the victory. It was a bit of a war in there. I don't know if people would have maybe expected that from Belal, but what were you expecting it from him?
Yeah, I was expecting a tough fight. Obviously, he's a good fighter, pressure fighter, good wrestling, he's pretty well-rounded. So, yeah, I was expecting a tough fight.
Were you surprised perhaps that he didn't go for as much grappling exchanges or takedowns as we usually see from him?
Not really. I mean, he was saying he wasn't going to shoot takedowns, but I was expecting a all-round offense, and yeah, I guess you can never expect anything. You just got to roll with it, and that's, I feel like, what I did.
I felt like most of your best exchanges were sort of in the pocket against the fence. Was that an area you knew you were going to find yourself in, or was you just going with the flow of the fight?
Going with the flow. I was trying to, the game plan was to stay off the fence. I feel like he does his best work on the fence. So I was trying to stay off the fence, but he was just walking down, pushing me up against the fence. But I felt like my footwork, every time he came in, I was able to hit him and then get off the fence.
5th round, it looked like you had him badly hurt. I was curious if you felt you nearly had him out of there and then you just wanted to gauge your cardio. What were you thinking in that 5th round?
Yeah, I was hoping to get him out of there. I was been thinking all week it'd be cool to get that late fight finish, like the Gilbert Burns. Like, it felt good to rally through and then take him out at the end, but I tried.
Confident you had the win when he went to the judges?
You never know, but I was confident they'd done pretty good work, but I guess you never know when you leave it to the judges. My corner when I finished the fight, I asked the corner a few times, and they said, yep, you definitely won that, so just waiting and see, but you never know.
4-1 is how I scored it, but I love mostly that he seized it. He took it, and you saw that eye, dude. He had to have a backbone to be able to deliver that because Belal was coming throughout. The counter argument, though, is pretty strong out there that Belal strategically will regret this. I just don't agree with it. You want to hear Robert Whitaker and like that? What's fueling that side?
Again,
of the
it's not
story?
an all or nothing thing. I think there's part to it, but let's hear what Robert Whitaker
Let's play
has
Robert
to say.
Whitaker's sound.
I expected more takedowns. Okay, now it's easy for me to say on the outside. Okay,
Sure.
we can look in and say, oh, I don't know how he was feeling or what had happened to him during the fight. I don't know how he felt, but from the outside, was it the 3rd or 4th round when he mixed in his striking and his shots?
Yeah.
When he mixed in the strikings to bring Jack onto it, to mix into his shots, they were clean every time.
Yeah.
Every time. I think his only 2 takedowns, more or less, were from the open mat, drawing Jack into it, sort of thing. Now, why didn't we see more of that? I can't help but feel like Belal was trying to make a point striking with Jack for the first 3 rounds.
He was. I think so.
And if that's the case, that is ridiculous.
Big mistake, right? Like,
yeah.
So is the argument more off the start of the fight then? Would you agree with that? I think Jack was. What are the official statistics on takedowns?
I'm pulling it up now. He went 2 of 9
overall.
Yes.
So Belal, it was 2 of 9 overall, and what
he attempted?
How many did he attempt in the first 2 rounds?
He attempted 1 in round 1. He attempted 3 in round 2. Now, Fight Metric has him as 0 for 0 on round 3, but they might have a different way of how you record what meaningfully counts as a takedown, what counts as a takedown attempt. But he absolutely went for him up against the fence and couldn't even begin to get close to it. I mean,
So, but is any part of Robert Whittaker's take, which a lot of people out there have, true? Because Whittaker specifically pointing to the beginning of the fight, and if he only shoots for 1 takedown in the first round and 3 in the second, and ends up going down 3-0 on most people's scorecards. That's how I had it at that point.
Is 3, Jose, just to answer the question, is 3 not enough per round?
Well, I'm trying to say, is this just because people hate Belal, and it seems to be like people were dunking on it left and right, him losing.
So partly it could be that people don't like Belal. The other one is that, you remember, he did say, I'm not gonna shoot 1 takedown, I'm gonna stand with it, which we all knew was kind of silly. And so they're thinking, is that what he did? Again, I'm gonna say it one more time. Can I go and find spots where I thought he could have been a little bit more on the gas with wrestling exchanges or an attempt to some kind of, even if it failed, some kind of way to pressure? But I'm going to say it one more time. Number 1, the round where he did the most amount of wrestling was the round he took the most amount of abuse. Just a fact. Number 2, the idea that he wasn't trying for takedowns until round 3 is just matter-of-factly invented on the internet. It's not what the tape shows. People have got to stop saying it, okay? And the biggest point is, Jack Della Maddalena did an absolutely expert job, not just at stopping takedowns once they got started, but people, go back and look at if you didn't go back and watch the Leon fight, watch the Leon fight, then watch this one. Look at where Jack is. He is always just a little bit outside of shooting range. Not always, but pretty consistently, and he is never here. He is always in here. Belal has a hard time taking guys down. He did get one in the 5th round that way, but then Jack hit the knee lever and got up. So he was able to get one that way. But this idea that, dude, Belal Muhammad is not Merab. He does not shoot 20 takedowns a fight.
Not Damian Maia. But he may, to be fair, he may have felt on the first takedown attempt in that round 1, like, oh, this guy has leveled up so significantly there. I mean, it's hard for me in hindsight to say you should have spammed him in the first couple rounds. That would have really negatively affected Belal's gas tank, and he was hanging close enough. He was competitive enough in the first 3 rounds where maybe in his mind he thought he won round 3, and then he did turn it up in terms of mixing up the takedowns and the striking in 4. But round 5, I think you got to give credit for Jack coming out and putting it on him. It's everything what you're saying about meeting the takedown attempts of Belal, and he was meeting a lot of times with not just pushback, but with offense. This was a brilliant footwork and technical boxing performance overall from Jack Della Maddalena. And I think that needs to be pushed further ahead of any of these other talks.
I fully agree. Let me just read you these numbers very quickly. These are the amount of takedowns that Belal has gotten per fight. Ready? 3, 9, 0, 0, 5, 7. That was against Wonder Boy. 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 2, 0, 3, 1, 4, 2, 0, 3, 2. If you've got a guy who doesn't make himself available for takedowns, and then when you try, your grip can't get together, you're getting stuffed immediately, and then you're getting hit as a consequence. Why is the notion, BC, I guess this is the part that bothers me. They're making it about whether or not Belal could have made a different choice, and that would have been, it was all his decision.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explain to people, there were probably a series of smaller decisions that could have changed it, but the idea that every part of this was basically just Belal's decision is matter-of-factly not fucking true. The tape doesn't show it. That's not what happened.
We won't talk about this as much, even though in topic 2 we'll talk about how this fight affects the UFC schedule in the future, and it does in a big way, in almost unique and unprecedented ways. But did you feel this changing of the guard because it puts a fresh-faced champion who's unbeaten in the organization? He's actually under 30, which doesn't typically happen in this
First
division.
One since St. Pierre at 170.
When the title changes hands, and he's exciting, and he pulled the guy that was everybody called the boring champion into a super exciting final round that made it was like a crescendo at the end of the pay-per-view, right? It made it feel, okay, that was an exciting show, and that fight was good. Did you feel like for all this talk about star issues and stuff, that this was a refreshing change of events over the weekend, even though that's not a slight against Belal? It's just sort of like, I felt like, oh, there's hope. There's more hope than there was, an hour before.
Lightweight's got bigger stars, because you still have the guys hanging on like the Gaethjes and the Poiriers and whatnot. Now Max is up there, and Ilia, obviously we'll talk about him, I'm sure. But 170 that's the division of young guns. Brady, JDM,
Gary.
Shavkat, Gary,
Buckley.
It just goes on and on. It is so freaking exciting. To answer your question, to watch a division get the kind of turnover that I would consider to be natural, where somebody who leveled up in their late 20s claims the title and does it in what I'm going to describe as pretty dominant fashion. The only thing I would say is I don't see somebody at 170. I mean, maybe it'll be Rakhmonov, but he's got some stuff to work on at this point. I don't see any of them who are clearly head and shoulders above the rest. So we might get a hot potato situation with that belt, BC, where every time a new challenger comes along, someone else is just grabbing it.
And because Shavkat's healing up, so it's almost got quasi light heavyweight pre John Jones era vibes to it.
So what I'm going to say is, it feels to me though, but it's great to see healthy division turnover. A guy in his late 20s should beat a guy in his late 30s, and that's exactly what you got.
And this could be a guy that fans potentially get behind. We'll see. He's not overly trash talkery, although he fielded the Ian Gary stuff well and could probably...
He does the cold stare real well.
Pretty much indeed. Luke Thomas, Belal Muhammad. Let's compare that lip injury to those other famous ones that we referenced there. Look at that slice-lipped overeem on the right, Robbie Lawler on the left right there. Wow. He went through hell. Do you think this will be... I'll bring Evander Holyfield in the example. Because he didn't win the heavyweight championship by going through Tyson, and because he was sort of looked at as the small cruiserweight who didn't have the same heavyweight power moving up, that it almost took him losing the title to Riddick Bowe in their first fight, but fighting with so much heart and character for people to be like, oh my God, he is one of the great ones. Like, he's awesome. Do you think there's a poor man's version of that? Will Belal finally get the respect that the critics and the haters have held back? Because in defeat, dude, he gave himself every possible chance to win and went out like a freaking warrior.
But here's what I don't understand. How can the crowd say Belal could have wrestled more and just chose not to because he wanted to stand? And then also,
people hate this guy, man.
Yeah, and then also say he fought like a warrior and did everything he could. Well, you're arguing he didn't if you're saying he could have wrestled more and didn't. Like, the argument is inherently contradictory. So this is why, to me, I don't. Could he have wrestled more? Yes. He might come out and say this week, I should have wrestled more. Like, I understand it. But I don't think that would have changed the equation. I really don't. I think JDM had his number that night. He was just comprehensively better. But I do agree, BC, that, like, I don't know how you can look at that photo and then look at the overall amount of effort he gave, including with his own striking, which we haven't even talked about, which was not as good as JDM's, but still quite commendable. And
definitely. And,
he was in that fight to win it, and not come away without a strong degree of respect for what kind of a fighter he is. Listen, there's going to be people who don't like him because that's just a thing to do. It's just to pretend that he's, uniquely horrible or something like that. But anybody who knows ball can look at that and be like, was it a perfect fight from Belal? No. But it was a fucking hard-nosed, commendable one, dude. And
do you agree
with
the internet saying that the UFC broadcast was too pro Belal because John Anik's brother hosts a podcast with him?
I don't know if it was too Belal. I mean, listen, this is something for you to weigh in on, because I've done commentary for smaller events. I've never done commentary for like a big. You've done Tank Davis commentary, right? People sometimes get on the booth and they say, "Oh, the booth is biased," and sometimes they're right. Sometimes the booth can be biased, but not in the way that this is describing. Like, oh, John's got his brother's in business with him, and so therefore he's just, artificially propping up the look or the interest.
I didn't think it was too far.
They're going to side with the champion, not every time, but more often than not. Yes, he probably does have affectionate feelings in that way for Belal, but I didn't think it was that. I just felt like the attention was about Belal. The commentary, this is why we're having this conversation. The commentary was, well, why isn't Belal shooting more? Well, why isn't Belal shooting more? And they made it like it was an elective decision at all times.
Sure.
So there's just this focus about him. Plus, he was the champ going in, and, there's going to be more attention on you for that reason. So they could have been biased, BC. That's, to me, totally normal. But I don't think they were biased for, like, fuck JDM. Man, we're gonna,
I felt the criticism was more overblown than the actual commentary was. But here is Belal, his first statement since the loss, taking to social media saying, Allah's plan is the best plan for everything. Thank you to all my supporters.
Alhamdulillah.
I always pronounce that wrong. Alhamdulillah. Sorry. Thank you to all my supporters. I've been here before, and I'll be back. He will be 37 in 2 months. But although we're going to slide into this next topic where we're going to talk about what's next for the champion and everybody else affiliated to that, we don't have Belal's future. Does he float away from title contention after this, or is he very much one big win, one bounce back from still being in here?
He is good enough to give anyone in that division in the top 5 a run for their money, but I've said it before. Once you become separated from the UFC title, it's virtually impossible to get it back. Only the very, very special ones can
Especially
do that.
in a deep division. And if Makhachev is coming now, that'll make it harder.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got, as you mentioned, Buckley and Gary and Shavkat and Brady, and now you're going to add in Islam on top of it. Like, holy fuck.
But there's probably a clause in every fighter's contract that if you're at welterweight and you're coming off of a title loss, that you're going to fight Covington soon, right?
I got to tell you, Belal versus Covington, I wouldn't hate.
That's like the perfect celeb get well fight in a sense.
First of all, I think Belal washes him. And more to the point, it would actually be kind of a fun grudge match. Also, it'd be, probably wildly racist on the part of Colby, but one never knows.
I hope not. Before we talk about what is next for all of these fighters, why don't we talk about what was then and what is still going on right now? Yeah, look at me, the camera. I'm talking about now being a great a time as ever to remember where tequila's story truly began in 1795. Cuervo invented tequila. It's a true fact. And since then, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots. We're talking about the same family, the same land, maybe most importantly, that same passion. Because 230 years later, Cuervo's still right here. In every pour, in every margarita, in every celebration. So enjoy the tequila that started it all. Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. ProximoCuervo.com. Please drink responsibly. And Luke, I think the Blanco of the Cuervo is my favorite when we pregame preview, as we just did last week with Chuck Mindenhall, UFC 315. I'm already looking ahead to 316. Steve Austin style. Maybe we'll get Steve Austin here to drink this Cuervo with us.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Is that what he says? Hell yeah, brother? I don't know.
More or less.
Okay.
More or less on that regard. But fire it up. Let's get into topic number 2 right now. And that is, of course, the whole uniqueness about the main event of UFC 315 playing in theory, or what we've been led to believe by Dana White's sort of confirmation of this talk from when Mike Bone asked the question at the pre-fight press conference about how much this will affect International Fight Week, which is, guys, 47 days away as we speak right now. So are we getting JDM versus Islam next? Are we getting Ilia versus Charlie Olives? And where the hell was Dana White after this event? So this is where we got an issue here, folks. Nothing is seemingly confirmed, even though Dana White was the one who confirmed and said that it all comes down to who wins, JDM or Muhammad. And then Dana exits stage left, and we get David Shaw, International Relations, who says, yeah, I can't comment on that stuff, guys. I don't know. So, Luke, following a rather unprecedented situation, as I mentioned right there, with Dana White being a no-show, what the hell is going on at the moment? Is Dana White completely checked out? Is he being phased out? How are we supposed to interpret what happens next in these very big matchups, including the summer showcase main event, and what happens next for both Islam and Ilia? Why did they not come out and put that to rest on Saturday night?
Partly those deals still have to get signed. They probably had verbal agreements rather than fully written, actualized ones, and there is a degree of paperwork that's required before they can commit to promotional assets. I think that's probably part of it. But you're asking a bigger question. You're asking about, why didn't Dana talk about this? I actually hit up a bunch of reporters who are on press row to get their sense of things, and they had a lot of different things to say. Part of it was, even when Dana is there nowadays, he still doesn't say necessarily a ton. I mean, it's not like he's, hardcore advocating for certain kinds of fights or, agitating for UFC causes more broadly.
So Hunter Campbell's doing the role that we all typically ascribe to Dana White in reality, right? But he's got to play a role in matchmaking.
Well, here's the thing. Hunter can do all the contracts, and he's a smart guy, obviously a very capable guy, but he can do all the contracts. He can do all of the things behind the scenes to get fights made. But the UFC has always had a bulldog promoting its brand, which was Dana. They've had a bulldog, a guy who promoted it in the media, a guy who made aggressive the cause of MMA, during the Ultimate Fighter and after that, a guy who was advocating for certain big fights and for MMA to reach new heights. And now the brand doesn't have a bulldog. It's got a very capable guy in Hunter Campbell. This is not a question whatsoever about his competency or ability. It speaks for itself. It's a question of somebody being the brand's barking dog in everyone's face all the time. And sometimes, by the way, that can go too far, but you can see what's happened. I think internally, a few things have happened. One, Dana's got a lot of other things going on. He's got his own personal power slap project, which to me is a gigantic waste of time, but it is a thing that he does. TKO boxing is certainly going to take over a lot of his time.
Fucking Fridays. He's a
Fucking
busy
Fridays.
man.
He's got a whole lot of stuff going on. So that's a big part of it. But I think the other part is you've heard them talk about they wanted to build UFC to a point that it was self-sufficient. And I don't think UFC can ever act. I don't think hardly any brand can actually be self-sufficient. I don't think that's a real thing. Framing it that way to me is a mistake, BC. Let me finish this point if I may. What's missing is there is somebody who is beating the drums, powering the engine with aggression and passion and fury and focus. Yes, Hunter Campbell's doing the job, but no one is pounding their fist on the Formica and saying, let me speak to the motherfucking manager. You're not getting that. And I think that is the kind of thing you're missing.
Yeah, I mean, we would all love somebody who's delivering the passion and what you would expect for this job. And Dana, again, is one of the best, some people think the best to ever do it in a long history of combat carnival barkers who have done this job very successfully, who can compare with his resume. But like, even more than you want somebody who can do it so great, you also just want some information dissemination and truth confirmed, even if it's confirmed in a used car salesman way where you're like, okay, I can see through what's really happening. Like, I know that it doesn't seem like the UFC cares about the bad PR going lately when we're talking about matchmaking and the whole direction of the company financially and all that stuff. But I thought there was a big opportunity on Saturday, considering this is a thing that was their fault that they sort of created on themselves. If you're saying, what is the thing? The fact that it's 47 days away, we don't know what the IFW main event is, and we're all kind of like, you can't make Jones and Aspinall. Can you make Ilia and Islam? Can you just make something happen? And then they leave it up to chance ultimately and say this fight will decide it. What about the potential good PR of you just had this exciting main event? You got this new champion. We know Ian Gary wants to fight next. Shavkov probably got next. There's 3 other guys who would raise their hand. Also, Islam might parachute in based on what you said. Not having someone to come out. And again, if it's not Dana, if he's not even that guy anymore, then maybe Hunter should step into that role and be that guy more. Or maybe just arm David Shaw with the information that, of course, the media is going to ask about. Wouldn't it be a great PR slam dunk for them to come out and be like, the welterweight division has been turned upside down. We got a new young champion. Oh, by the way, the best fighter in the world is ready to make the move up. And later this fall, it's going to be this guy versus this guy. Instead, it's just, we didn't show up.
Do you need to do that if you believe the UFC is ultimately self-sufficient?
I mean,
people were talking about the ticket sales. They sold a $6 million gate, which for a pay-per-view is not super, or maybe it was 8 plus, right around that. I forget if it was Canadian or US. Not its highest by any stretch, but the highest in that building for a non-hockey event. I'm not saying to you that like there isn't real consternation about the state of the product. I fully recognize. But again, people don't want to have this conversation because they get all angry and they're like, this is too much. But the effects of monopoly are all-encompassing and corrosive. And if you believe that your product is ultimately self-sufficient, what is it you think you have to do after a pay-per-view like this that just had a semi-record gate?
I guess nothing.
Right. This is the problem.
This is the problem. But then this doesn't
You have to feel the heat on your ass to get out there and be able to go out there and say, look what we got going on. Look how important it is. Look what we're going to have in store for you. And with verve and energy and fucking A. But if you think everything is self-sufficient, why would you do that?
I mean, we could have come out of this show, as much as it's always going to be important to recap the biggest fight from Saturday to kick off the show. But if we were coming out guns blazing with, it's going to be Ilia versus Charles do Bronx at IFW, and it's going to be JDM making his first defense against Islam. And oh, by the way, how good was that main event? Like, you could, like, the storyline would be all full guns blazing, excited. Let's spin it to the future. Debate, was that the right move? All this stuff. And now we're sort of like, I don't know what the next move is. It's just, I don't know. It's sort of.
I don't disagree with you.
Like, do your job in that regard. Like, get the people fired up.
What's your theory about why Dana, but he did this in London too, as I understand it. What is your theory about why this is all happening?
Maybe, just maybe, when Dana announced on Thursday that based on the outcome of this fight will happen, this fight will happen. Maybe now Islam's like holding for, like, I need more money for this or something. Maybe it's a negotiation tactic. Who knows?
Okay, but couldn't you come out and say, hey, we're eyeballing a couple of big ones for Islam, but we got to see what happens.
It's not unfair for me to criticize them for not having their shit together when we're less than 50 days out from the biggest centerpiece card of the year.
I hope you understand. I'm not suggesting it is.
Right. So it's like, that's really the onus of my anger. It's like, you have all the things in front of you to dominate this industry, and you are from a financial standpoint. Do the bare minimum of what we expect for you to like build that hype and that buzz.
Did you see their Q1 earnings?
I didn't look into them.
Yeah, they're higher than I think they're up something like 12 or more % relative to Q1 earnings of 2024. People keep talking about how if something doesn't happen, the UFC is going to, it's going to get real bad for them, and we're going to see some real consequences. That is true in a sense, but we are so fucking far from that. We're not even approximating
this is starting
where
to
that
feel
is.
like the exact thing that got me out of the wrestling business at a time when booking was so stale in 2019, 2020. And I felt like WWE and Vince McMahon was just really just leaning on the backbones of the hardcore addicted fans who would sit through anything to connect the dots from one pay-per-view to another. The storyline just never made sense. There wasn't, and it felt like a disrespect to the people that actually care about the show from that standpoint, right? That you're telling this larger soap opera angle and all that. I feel like that's what's happening. We're losing the recipes, Luke. I mean, I feel like that's what's happening here. Because I want to talk about these fights. Let's see these 2 tweets from Islam Makhachev, because we're led to believe JDM won. Now Islam's moving up and getting the next title shot, correct? That we're led to believe. Dana confirmed that by saying yes. At the press conference, he said yes. I think that's
yeah. Once again, I want to point out pre-fight, it wasn't like he was saying a bunch of interesting things either.
He's checked out, dude. I just can't figure out if they have forced him out or if he's just checked out. But here's Makhachev, the first one: time to become a double champion. Inshallah, let's go. And then the second one aimed at JDM, who at the end of the post-fight interview with Joe Rogan said, let's run it and let's do it for Volk. You are not Volk. I will show you a different level.
Joe
Keep
Rogan.
my belt clean. I'm sorry, Joe Rogan wasn't there.
Cormier
handled the interview.
I was like, did I miss something?
No, sorry, that was in Canada. So that would lead you to believe there that that is next. Cameras seem to catch the tail end of Jack Della Maddalena's speakerphone with Hunter and Dana. That says a little bit about the future. Let's listen.
Makhachev next, right? In Perth? Let's go. Cheers, Dana. Thanks, Hunter. Thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Legends. Cheers, guys. Save the welterweight division. Yeah. Save the division. Save it.
Well, I guess it didn't confirm anything there, but do you think that that's where we're headed? Potentially Perth, because he's the hometown boy? Him against Makhachev?
There is no fucking way they're going to make Makhachev fight in Perth. Not going to happen.
They didn't bite on it when he threw the bait out. But
not going to happen.
Are you confident that that is where they're going next? Because they do have a few different sexy options. So which way are they going
next?
Yes,
it seems to me that the likeliest option is Makhachev versus JDM, which, can we just say for a moment, put the belly aching aside, what a great fight.
I would love that fight.
This is the debate we were having on the pregame preview for this past week, which was the single best fight you can make in MMA is Islam Ilia.
Yes.
That's the single best one. We lose that, or at a bare minimum, listen, he could go fight JDM and get knocked out, and maybe he goes back to 55. That's a possibility. But it seems like for a minute, at a bare minimum, it's on the back burner. However, we now have Islam in this new potential universe at 170. I don't know how long he'll stay around if he wins a title at 70 BC. He might win it and call it a day.
Or move up to middleweight?
No, I don't think he'll do that. But you get the idea.
I do.
You have a new range of possibilities. This is what I mean. He's making an already great division much more exciting in the process, and I do think that's something that fans should be excited for and celebrate. For me personally, JDM versus Islam is
it's some sex.
Top tier fight.
It's two absolutely hungry top elite alpha studs, and even though Islam has on paper a lot better of a well-rounded game and more skills, it's the adaptation of moving up in weight. It's facing this absolutely hungry guy that's willing to go through hell to win these fights. Yeah, that's a great fight. I've always been for Islam Ilia because it's just so big. It's so wonderful. Just cash it in. You may get 2 or 3 of them if you're lucky. Just cash it in one time. But the argument against it probably always was that you can get 2 of a good thing instead of 1. You can get JDM versus Islam next, and then Ilia versus Charles Oliveira at IFW for the vacant title. Both of those scream entertainment, scream that it would teach us a lot. Do you think, though, if that's the direction we're headed, and we've got more video to prove that it seems like it is, have we missed the window? Will we have missed the window in your eyes for good on Islam versus Ilia in the same way, although I don't hold it against them, that UFC had a minute with that GSP Anderson Silva window?
They had much more than a minute.
They had a few minutes. But my point is, I was never like holding it against them that it didn't happen. It probably should have happened, but that's fine. Is this the end of this talk, Ilia and Islam? That is probably, this was the
If
chance.
he wins at 170 in his next fight, Islam, it's over. Yeah.
Could you see Ilia, who's been following a McGregor-like, almost pre-written plan, from the tattoos to the pronouncements, if he beats Stowe Bronx for the vacant title, couldn't you see him without a shadow of a doubt going, Makhachev, after you win that welterweight title, I'll see you there also?
He would have to pulverize Oliveira. He would have to absolutely batter him.
Or just stop him. If he stops him, that's a statement.
I don't think stopping is enough. I think you got to go in there and like destroy him.
Long Island, look, that's the direction these impromptu, opportunistic planners like Ilia ultimately is. Of course, he'd be calling out Islam right away. That's McGregor type shit.
Yeah, I think any stoppage you could call him out.
That's wild. So maybe.
Yeah. Any
so
stoppage you can call him out.
dead.
I'm not talking about that. I'm saying what can you actually do to convince UFC to think about making it? And just stopping him is insufficient.
I want to say also, though, I don't think, like, Ilia moving up to 70, I think more like Ilia wins, convinces Islam, come back down.
Come back down.
Your belt.
Oh, then that's a huge fight. Let's hear from Jack Della, who's into the idea.
Islam's already tweeted at you a few times, and like the most recent one, he says, "You're not Volk. I'll show you there at different levels. Keep my belt clean." Do you have any response to Islam?
No, come get it. Come get it.
Oh, shit.
By the way, here's my point. How fast did Islam beat Oliveira? Like a round and a half, right? Something like that? This is what I mean. What if Ilia goes in there and beats Oliveira quicker than that? Well, now you have an argument. It's like, look how long it took Islam. And by the way, that was like a one-sided fight for Islam. I mean, that was relatively easy for him. What if Ilia has an even easier time? Now, that to me, that is a scenario where he can be like,
I get it.
Whatever Islam is, I'm better.
But the line is long at welterweight should Islam go in there and win it right away. What about the hypocrisy of this? Wasn't Islam, and I don't want to like cheer against him at all. I really love that guy as a fighter. He's one of the best of all time, Luke. But him saying that Ilia would have to come up and prove first, isn't that the same argument that could be said about Islam moving up and getting a title shot in his
Yeah,
first,
I mean, I don't know if guys know this. Fighters say a lot of shit all the time, and half of it is nonsensical and or hypocritical.
Okay, thank you.
That's the beginning and end of that conversation.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go to Ian Gary, who believes that he should be in this spot and is ready to cut in.
He took some fucking strays this week.
Yeah, he's ready to cut in line if given the opportunity.
You've got the new champion, Jack Della Maddalena, the Aussie, great performance, but sloppy. The rumour is Islam Makhachev is moving up to 170, and if he does, then all of us welterweights have to take a step back and give the man the respect he deserves. But if negotiations don't go so well, then you've got a tall, blonde Irishman who's ready to take over the UFC and get that belt, and I will smoke Jack Della Maddalena. I'll box the ears off him.
Long Island Luke and I were talking earlier.
I mean, I think Gary is good, but I just can't take that seriously. I'm just like,
but that would be a great fight.
Oh, it'd be a great fight. But he's like, JDM looked sloppy.
JDM looked awesome.
Yeah, he looked fucking awesome. Yeah. What are you talking about?
But what he's talking about is he has a way of neutralizing people's best practices offensively, and he knows that. He might be the toughest style matchup outside of a wrestler who
he's not boxing JDM's ears off. Let me be very fucking clear.
But he'll slow down what JDM does well, make it a close chess match. He has the ability to win these close chess matches.
Don't get me wrong. Ian Gary, he's in that list with the Buckleys and the Shafkats and everybody else. He is firmly entrenched in that part of the conversation, and therefore any of those permutations are great. Although, as we discussed pre-show, I think the best one for Ian Gary would be Sean Brady. Sean Brady, Ian Gary, to me, is the one that is.
That's probably what would happen next if Islam gets.
If Islam gets it, we actually have to kind of think about that because Shavkat's waiting in the wings, but Brady's waiting in the wings.
And there's Buckley Usman, which may or may not factor into this
for the UFC Atlanta card. That's the headliner there, but I think Buckley's going to wash him, and so he's going to now be in that space. So there's a couple of ways it could go when Islam does make his move to 170 eventually. And again, if it ends up being JDM Gary, I'm all in favor of it. But him being like, he looked sloppy. I realize, I get it. It's promotional material. I understand. But it's laughable. I mean, I just, come on.
All right, the flip side of this is Ilia at IFW against Charles Oliveira. We didn't talk about what happened to Arman Sarukian in the last week and a half, where people are claiming that the UFC trapped him by offering him a UFC Dubai main event against, who was it, Gamrot? Which he then turned down, saying, no, I'm ready for a title. I deserve a title shot. And then that was their way of getting him out of the way and bringing in Oliveira. I don't know if I believe in that, but was that a wrong strategical decision or the right one? Because Arman's going to wait for his opportunity.
Arman can wait a little. I actually feel, we didn't really discuss it with the last topic, BC, but in general, fighters are going to say that, and correctly, I think, that more regular competition would be better for their overall ability. But there can also be cases where competing too much at certain times in your career doesn't give you what you need to really round out. This is the kind of conversation I am having anyway, about Ian Gary. I'm not declaring that's what's going to happen to him, but I'm a little bit concerned based on what I see. Plenty of ability, but can he really maximize that if you're just constantly taking these short notice fights all the time, right? But Della Maddalena did something a little bit different. He obviously had an injury in part of it, but he took 14 months off. Look at how much he leveled up in that process. So the point I'm trying to make about Sarukian is, dude, UFC, okay, don't take the Gamrot fight because we don't need to see it. We already did. It was a good fight, but he's in another place. But if I'm in Sarukian's camp, I am telling him, if you want to get good enough to beat the people who hold the belt, taking a little bit of time off actually here is exactly what he needs to be doing.
All right, quickly before we hit the rest of UFC 315, how this applies further on down the line is, does this mean Topuria against Do Bronx would be the main event in your eyes for IFW? Because there was the whole Poetan situation with the I was hacked, which none of us believe, and DC came out aggressively. And now you've got Ankalaev, whether it's him tweeting or Ali, basically saying that if Poetan doesn't want it at IFW, like, they're willing to take on whomever.
And who give him what, Alberg?
I don't know. Is
probably
that,
right?
I guess that would be.
Alberg beat Jan, and so that's kind of where we're at.
So that would be the co-main?
You could probably do co-main with that one. You could still, by the way, I mean, I don't know how they could make it work, but could you do Aspinall Gone co-main?
Are we really going to do Aspinall
I'm
Gone
asking.
for the
I'm asking.
I personally believe that if they do that, it'll be some point of no return for some people. That's like, all right, fuck it, I can't watch this stuff anymore. If you can't,
so it'd be like so radioactive,
kind of like it, because it's building. It was the UFC London card. All those fans, turned away and didn't buy tickets. It's like we've been building incrementally all these little turns where people are like, man, that's fucked up. This isn't the UFC from the pandemic. This isn't my UFC from 2016, whatever. I feel like that is an ultimate sign of you have become boxing, as you're trying to get into boxing while you're telling everybody that boxing sucks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting a guy defending his interim title, I've said this before, I've only seen a guy in boxing defend an interim title. Sorry, I've only seen an interim title defended 4 times in boxing. It was Julio Arce years and years ago, but we're not far from that.
Well, unfortunately, boxing puts out interim titles now all the time, just so it looks like it's a title fight on TV. There was a interim secondary title on that Ryan Garcia Rolly Romero fight. All it really means is the winner is going to be a #1 contender for a title fight. I mean, it's all bullshit, but that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Before we get into Valentina and the movement going on there at 125, Luke, I want to tell the people, I want to tell you why I'm obsessed with this right here, this Ridge wallet. Look at this orange color, Luke.
I got a black one.
Look at this orange color matching my car, matching usually my outfits. But Luke, I was one of those old George Costanza Seinfeld wallet guys with the child pictures from when my kids were 2 stuffed in the back and some old library cards. And, I come from an era where people had man wallets, Luke.
Me too.
But that's like carrying around a giant purse. Dude, the efficiency of being able to pop the cards in and out, of having the clip for the money folded up right in the back, and being able to put it in my front pocket, never have to worry from a security standpoint. It's quick, it's easy, it's stylish. Well, you want to talk about premium materials? I don't feel like you could physically break this, Luke. Made out of aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber. Oh yeah, they also have the lifetime guarantee that you have any issues from it, they'll fix that for you. So this could be the type of wallet that isn't just trendy in the moment. This could be for life, Luke, because I'm already down quickly with what Ridge is offering us.
Yeah, by the way, they've got the RFID blocking technology, which is going to keep you safe from digital pickpocketers. But to your point, the build quality on this thing, BC, is exactly what you want. The slim profile, it can go right in your front pocket. I'm with you, BC. I grew up in the age of the George Costanza wallet that would fit in your back. You had all the credit cards. You had someone's business cards in there, old receipts. Remember all the old receipts you would put in there? No, there's a better way to do it, and Ridge is going to help you. And by the way, as I mentioned, it just looks nice. The build quality is nice. Everything about this is just so freaking slick. It's where things are going in a minimalist yet modern kind of way.
And if you're some cynic and says, oh, it's so small, maybe you'll lose it. How about something called Ridge AirTag attachment technology, Luke? Well, you always will know exactly where your Ridge wallet is before that panic kicks in. It's like Find My Phone, Luke. This is great technology that's moving.
That's right.
Forward.
They create premium everyday essentials like key cases, suitcases, by the way, all built with the same sleek, durable design. So BC, it really doesn't matter what you pick. Ridge has free shipping. How about that? And a 99-day risk-free trial and a lifetime warranty on all their freaking products. Really can't go wrong.
Yeah, over 100,000 5-star reviews. Can't be wrong right here. For a limited time, I mean, you got to know about it. You got to do it here, our listeners. Get 10% off of Ridge by using our code COMBAT with a K at checkout. Just head on over to ridge.com. Use our code COMBAT with a K. You're all set. And after you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about the Ridge wallet from. How about this right here? Tell them it's Morning Kombat. Support our show and tell them our show sent you. I also have the keychain, by the way, the Ridge keychain, which is fantastic.
I got sent it. I haven't opened mine yet. But
you attach those keys right into it, so it's closed up. It's
nice.
Fantastic. No more of those key rings falling apart. Also, this podcast is sponsored by Total Wireless, the official wireless partner of the UFC. And when you're streaming the fight or sharing those takedown highlights, you need a wireless provider that keeps you close to the action. With Total Wireless, you're covered by the Verizon 5G network, so you don't have to worry about your connection being knocked out at the biggest moments. It's not something you can usually say about a wireless provider, but Total Wireless really has your back. They're in your corner every second of the day, so you never miss a thing, and they keep you covered. Forget this, $25 a month with 4 lines without sacrificing the essentials. So we're talking about speed. And with Total, you get unlimited 5G data, so you can stay ahead of the action and keep up with every knockout. Luke, you would understand that Total Wireless understands that you can't afford any surprise blows any more than your favorite fighter can. That's why this price is guaranteed for 5 years, taxes and fees included. Tell them about it, Luke.
Yeah, there's simply no denying that is true. The best fighters don't make it to the octagon alone, BC. They have all-in support along the way, and it shouldn't be any different for any of you. So here's what you're going to do. Visit TotalWireless.com or visit your local Total Wireless store to learn more about how Total Wireless can be in your corner. 5G access requires a 5G-capable device in 5G service area. Monthly rate on the Total-based 5G unlimited plan for new subscribers applies only to the monthly rate for your plan. Additional terms apply. See website for details.
Thank you very much. Topic number 3 shifts up to the co-main event and 315's feature of the women's flyweight division, offering in a lot of cases the best that it has to offer. Or was it considered the best? Let's get into that, because Valentina Shevchenko edged out Manon Fiorot in a close 5-round decision to defend the title at age 37 on the same night that Natalia Silva and Jasmine Jasudavicius scored breakthrough wins to push them even closer to that title. So, Luke, this co-main event, it was far from the most exciting title bout in recent memory.
It was your favorite fight.
I'm sorry?
It was your favorite fight.
See, I was frustrated because, this talk right now about women's MMA being down, and you got a lot of people aggressively saying we should just shut it down, get it off of pay-per-view main cards. This matchup I was fired up for. All 3 matchups on flyweight, and I was entertained to a great degree, but I get when you watch a very close chess match like this, not everybody was. So I was kind of down after this, and considering that the way it played out kind of only adds to the fuel of those stereotypes that I mentioned, it is a little bit disappointing. But Shevchenko relied upon that veteran ability to make those championship adjustments and narrowly outpoint Fiorot. Did the judges get it right in the end, in your eyes, Luke? Is there a case here on the other side for Fiorot? And does this aggressively push Shevchenko further into that living legend, maybe getting closer to the potential women's MMA GOAT-ship? How big was this win in that regard, and how'd you score it?
In some ways, this will be a forgettable win because Fiorot is simply not a noteworthy figure in the sport. She's not really even a noteworthy figure within women's MMA, other than for the fact that she, did well to get here as a number one contender. Like, she's legit.
I mean, the odds makers favored her.
Fair enough. There were some concerns about Shevchenko because of what kind of performances Grasso had been turning in, and again, she's closer to 40 than she is 30. To me, this fight was pretty terrible, but not the worst thing I'd ever seen. Here's what I'll say. Fiorot did what she could with the skill set that she has. I was a little surprised by this. I thought she'd have a little bit more success, but she didn't. Now, to her credit,
I mean, she got lit up in round one.
She got torched in round one and then came back out with that lancing jab that she used to then clinch. And I thought that was not a spectacular way to fight, but she was just trying to find anything she could get, drowning in the water, trying to find anything she could hold on to. And she climbed her way out of that one a little bit. So she did make it close down the stretch.
She used her size. I got to give her that credit.
Yeah, and again, she was pretty strong. I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Can we show the scorecards here? I scored it 3-2, giving Fiorot both the second and third. I thought Valentina rallied around 4. She dropped Fiorot late with that stiff jab to claim that. So I had it 2-2 going into the fifth. I gave the fifth to Shevchenko. What I really want to know is, how'd you score it, and is there an argument to give that fifth to Fiorot, since she had a lot of success in the clinch? Although her striking, I guess, overall wasn't as clean in that round. But it didn't feel like a round 5 where they both were fighting with desperation either.
Yeah, I'm not. I think both had the most amount of volume that they each had in that round, so they were both kind of trying to put it on the other one. To me, though, it's like a question of, like, Fiorot was able to make it close in round. She was able to, like, land, busy shots and keep it working and, find a way to just kind of scratch and claw. But even if she had won, it would
have been disappointing.
It would have been disappointing because she was not the better fighter.
No.
The better fighter was Valentina Shevchenko.
Did she let you down? Not personally, but like in the esteem that you put in her stock, seeing her as a betting favorite, knowing what she did to Blanchfield to completely neutralize her. Although I said coming in, Blanchfield doesn't move her head. Shevchenko does. It could be a different game.
For sure.
But the adjustments Fiorot made physically after getting beaten up round 1 and looking like she was on the way out.
Yeah.
Like there's some elite championship backbone in there, but were you let down in totality that she couldn't out-chess the chess match?
Yeah, basically, that you saw the full. I mean, again, I'm going to give her a ton of credit. She got beat up real badly in the first round. I think her nose was broken because she kept wincing on every highlight. So she must have been in agonizing pain for the rest of those 4 rounds, BC. And that could not be easy to do by any stretch. But I also felt like we got a clear look at her game. And once she had a bit of a B game to go to. The A game she wanted got taken away. So she went to the B game. And the B game got her close, but it just wasn't offensively dynamic. Like, the person who was offensively dynamic in this fight was Shevchenko. And frankly, the person who was defensively dynamic, because she could turn defense into offense, was Valentina Shevchenko.
Sure.
I didn't come away necessarily having a massive stock drop in Fiorot. It certainly dropped to a degree. But honestly, I can just admit it. I slept on Valentina Shevchenko a little bit here. I thought, obviously she's done amazing things, but I thought, okay, well, that's coming to a close. And what I will say is a performance like this, where a contender can clearly be a bit of a lesser than and still make it close, tells you that, like, there is some parity now between her and that division in ways that maybe didn't exist before. But at the same time, she is talented and crafty as shit. She had a good game plan. Her athleticism is still very, very serviceable.
Oh.
And, dude, she knows what she's doing. The takeaway here, like in the main event, the takeaway, sometimes you can really point to the person who loses and you could be like, you fucked this up. But in the main event, I'm mostly going to say JDM rose. And in this co-main event, I'm going to say Valentina set the bar high and Fiorot just could not match it.
I just fear that if this was the best of what the deepest division in the sport offers, I mean, it wasn't the best in terms of excitement, because for Valentina to win it this way, she had to kind of really not hold the ball, but make it a very, tight margin of error for both in the chess match. I just feel like it pushed.
Dude, say what you think. You texted me during this fight and you were not happy with the way it was going.
Yeah, because I felt like this.
Tell the audience the truth.
I felt like this negatively played into people's stereotypes of if this is the very peak of elite women's MMA, then that's
elite
that's
women's
boring
MMA
and limited to me. When it didn't, I guess maybe there used to be a lot more fire.
Yeah.
I felt like.
Here's the reality. there are a lot of people inside of MMA who have terrible relationships with women and their mothers, and they don't realize it, or maybe they halfway do, but they use it as a
maybe they just want more exciting barbaric fights.
No. Let's back up a step. There are a lot of people in this sport who have terrible relationships with women, terrible and negative attitudes. Here's my point. And it's very hard to understand where that begins and legitimate criticism of a flagging side of the sport ends. It can get lost. But what I can really say is, for people who've paid attention to women's MMA, it was in a very terrible place when they were doing 3-minute rounds on CBS.
Yes.
Okay. And it got really good, but it has clearly declined since the high water mark of, what would you say, 15 or 16, something like that.
I'd even push it further into the Rose versus Joanna series.
Fair
It
enough.
was still at even the early Whaley run with maybe through the Joanna Whaley one in 2020, right before the pandemic.
I just remember, I always bring this fight up because it wasn't for a title, but like when Miesha Tate fought Kat Zingano, it was a brutal ass fight. She finished her off with knees.
Yes.
And I remember thinking to myself, this is why women's MMA succeeds where women's boxing doesn't, because the action they can deliver closely matches the men's game. And now there has been a major bifurcation between the men and the women.
Wow.
Well,
I'm impressed by it.
Okay, whatever. There's been a split, whatever you want me to say.
Bifurcation's fine.
Yeah, there's been a bifurcation, and so now you're just getting to a place where, now in fairness to the women's game, there were 2 other women's flyweight fights on this card.
And we're going to get to them.
Both of them were pretty great. Well, one was very short.
Let's get to the extending resume of the great Valentina Shevchenko, who extended her women's record in UFC history for most wins in title fights to 10. This was her 8th total defense of her women's flyweight title. But if you look at that, the faces on that resume that she's defeated across 2 divisions now, Holly Holm, Juliana Pena, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Jessica Andrade, who's that? Alexa Grasso, and then now Manon Fiorot. Everyone but Fiorot is a former champion, and she has 8 title defenses in this division, and she's been on top long enough that she was there in the beginning when there was no one to fight her, and she's been through the rise of others, and she's still standing. You got to give it. You got to give it up for that, right?
She's special, dude. And again, we all knew she was special, but I kind of thought that was coming to a close. And she's still got it, dude.
All right, the question is next for Shevchenko, should it be Whaley moving up into a super fight, or should it be Natalia Silva? We'll break down Natalia's fight in a second, but here's what Shevchenko thinks.
I have to ask, Whaley's already sent her message out to you. She said congratulations, and then everything's lined up, and then it's destiny that you two face. So I guess, is that a fight you'd be interested in? Do you have a response for Whaley?
Oh, now before coming to to here, so everyone was saying like Whaley or Natalia. Like another contender. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just like wanna maybe fans can play some role in that, and if they can like join my OnlyFans page and drop some messages who they wanna see me fight next. So I think it's gonna be we will compare who's next.
What's best for your legacy? Would Whaley mean a little more to you?
Probably yes, and considering like all that title defense that I already have in flyweight, and yeah, but you know, it's kind of like for me now, after the fight, you got a victory, your belt is with you, it's so much like you have this still adrenaline running and everything like that, and to answer exact question, I would.
Sorry to cut her off there, but there's continuing.
You're like, I don't need to hear your yapping.
But Luke, she wants the fans to vote on her OnlyFans of who she should fight next.
What's on there, BC?
I don't know, but unfortunately, I feel like people are going to vote for themselves as the opponent or vote to shut down women's MMA entirely. I hope not. Seriously, though, resume-wise and big fight-wise, you got to pick Whaley. Who would you rather see as a fan, though, considering Natalia Silva, who I said the fact that she's not a big slugger, the fact that she's not a finisher, would be an issue maybe in this Grasso fight, and she just implemented her plan A beautifully in dissecting the former champion Grasso. Who should be next for?
Can I tell you I'm not super high on the Zhang Weili fight?
Why?
All right.
Because you hate women, or no? That's not.
That's a problem that some of you other donks need to go to therapy for.
Some of us.
I already did my time in therapy to get over my issues. Zhang Weili is obviously really good, and in terms of pure talent, would be far and away the best opponent that Shevchenko could get. Here's where tell me if I'm missing something. Shevchenko and Zhang Weili technically are 10 pounds apart, right? But Shevchenko, if it wasn't for Nunes, would have been a champion up there at 35. And by the way, you can make an argument should have been anyway.
Hell yeah.
So we've got someone at 25 who can cut down to 25, but is just as competitive basically at 35, especially now if she went to 35, I think she'd take the title. I don't think anyone would.
Really?
Beat her. Yeah. I don't think Kayla would beat her.
Is that the most exciting turn of events for women's MMA if that happened?
Right. Whereas Zhang Weili, I think, can go up to 25, but if you're dealing with somebody who's competitive, very competitive, championship level competitive at 35, is she undersized? Is there something to that?
There might be. But
Long Island
until
Luke.
we talk about her moving up to 35, she's got to clean out the remaining big names. And there's a list of competitive names coming up. And I think if you add Wei Li to that, if she's going to move up full time, then you would kind of want to get through that first.
What do you think about that idea?
I think it's a fair point that like Shevchenko would have the size advantage, but I want to disagree with you on the Kayla thing, man. I think Kayla Chevy, I don't want to say I think Kayla wins, but I kind of think I favor Kayla in that.
Let me be honest. I like Kayla Chevy more than I like Chevy Zhang Weili.
I agree with that.
Because I think we already know that
that she's the better technical fighter and she's going to be the bigger one, so there's a great chance she's going to be able to dissect her in a somewhat boring way like we just saw.
Potentially. Or she could just wrestle Zhang Weili for, 2 or 3 rounds and then the rest of it just kind of
I don't know. Zhang Weili
keep
can wrestle
away.
now.
Whereas with Kayla's got real deficiencies relative to Shevchenko on the feet, but the hands get together and now we got a different ball game going on. So to me, that's kind of an interesting fight.
That is.
But I recognize pure talent, Zhang Weili is the best opponent for her far and away.
Should Natalia Silva have to take another fight after this victory over the former champion Ingrosso? Because, dude, her movement and her footwork strategies and her ability to not linger in the pocket to get lit up with big shots. Like if you rush her, like Grosso did a few times, you can clip her. But Luke, she's firing back offense in the midst of that, and she makes you chase throughout.
Okay.
I always feel like someone with big power is going to discipline that style out of her, but I'm not sure if there's anybody left with super big power that's of the elite status that will do that.
It's amazing to me that we're talking about like all the things that Belal apparently just elected to not do against, a ridiculously talented opponent. And I don't hear anybody talking about the fact that Grosso can't effectively cage cut at this stage in her career. Now, granted, it wasn't something she could have done, I guess, and chose not to, but to be that skillfully deficient at this stage in your career is 1 billion% unforgivable.
So are you saying that she made Silva look like a star? Because I saw people going, I think Silva can run circles around Valentina, and I'm like, let's slow it down there.
Here's the thing. No, I don't know about that either. She does have fast feet and fast hands. Like that's real. She uses that full space very effectively. My point is, Silva used footwork and lateral movement very, very effectively in that fight. People were saying she's running. You're an idiot. She's not. Okay. If you're the one scoring more and moving more, then the other person is doing something wrong. My point is, there was supposed to be a corresponding response from Grosso to cut her off, and we never got it.
Right.
So we don't know what other answer Silva may have been forced to use and whether she could or couldn't have. There's just a series of unanswered questions. Grosso, a former champion in the middle of her prime, watching an opponent just walk around the cage and you're not effectively pressuring and cutting her off. And this is why
she got cut up too. She got banged up.
She got super banged up. And this is the part of like, again, dude, DC and Cruz I think are very, very good commentators. But they said one thing during that fight, which also makes me kind of question about some of the Belal analysis when they're like, well, why isn't, and it wasn't Cruz, it was just DC, like, why isn't he shooting more? And again, Belal should have shot more potentially. But what they said in the fight with Silva is, Grosso needs to make it ugly and whatnot. And I'm like, I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but the one sequence where they brought it up was where Silva's back is up against the fence, and now Grosso can get close to her. The two most important distances, from fighter X to fighter Y, that's one, and then from fighter Y to the cage. Those are the two things you have to solve for. If you cannot solve for at least one of them, but ideally two of them, you cannot win in modern MMA. But BC, in that sequence, yeah, if Silva is not moving And now you can get closer to her as a consequence. She's going to be more hittable. It's not about making it uglier. It was about solving distance problems.
Yeah.
Like that's the issue.
And I don't think that you can play up any narratives that Silva can't do damage when you look at the damage she did over 3 rounds to Grasso right there. I mean, that striking is crisp and clear, and she's got not just a kicking game, a variety to the kicking game.
Bro, if you're William School and you're just touching and not doing fuck all, it's one thing. If you're landing the more damaging strikes and moving, your opponent's job is to limit your movement. She didn't even fucking try. Not well, anyway. Just a totally bad effort at it. I don't normally say that, but like, dude, how can someone be 31, a former champion, and you cannot effectively cage cut an opponent at this stage in your career? It's not forgivable. It's not forgivable.
Long Island Luke, be honest. Can Silva beat Shevchenko?
I think she can, yeah.
Wow.
She's young too, right? How old is she?
She's like 27, but would that be one of those situations where it would be a slow, boring fight, but she would be the one who's more active, and you'd be judging her leaping in and spamming against Shevchenko's bigger counters?
Well, that's what Fiorot was trying.
Or can Shevchenko wrestle her?
I think Shevchenko can wrestle her, although Silva has very good takedown defense. That's one thing I would say. But, this is the other part, too. First of all, I think Shevchenko, if she wants to cut her, can cage cut her.
Mm-hmm.
But more to the point, I think Shevchenko might accept that pressure. That's what you saw in this fight, too. She likes accepting aggression and then getting head off. And then, it wouldn't be in that particular respect. It wouldn't be too dissimilar from the Manon Fiorot fight, where she's accepting Fiorot, who's coming in ramrod straight for at least early on, and then getting clipped for it. So, the one thing I will say, though, is I think Silva is much more explosive and quicker than Fiorot. And so her ability to, explode into distance might be more of a threat to Shevchenko than Fiorot was.
That's a fair point. Jasmine Jasdavicius, you got to give her credit. I mean, she's climbing.
Dude, she fucking... Let me ask a question. Let me ask a question, though. I have to ask it.
Put her down and subbed her in the first round within, it felt like
2 minutes.
that.
I have to ask. Is Andrade okay? Here's what I'm saying. I don't want to take away from Jasmine at all. But I just don't know what the hell's going on with Jessica.
It's kind of just par for the course. I counted her out big time 3-4 fights ago, and then she comes out and knocks out Mackenzie Dern. She can, if you're vulnerable to her power, she's willing to take the violence that you put on her to continue to stalk you through the whole fight. And that goes back, by the way, to her fighting Joanna for the title back in the day. So she's definitely a second or third tier version of her peak self. But there's, even with the depth at 125, there's just a huge group of those fighters in contention that she can still break down and get a knockout on just for having that big time power. But if you have size, if you have a specific dominant skill to counter that, particularly on the ground, she gets swallowed up. And that's what's happened in all of her elite losses, in succession. Well, actually, recently she's been getting stopped even more, too.
I'll say this. Whatever the reason, you can just look at the tape, and Jasmine looked phenomenal. She was not afraid. She took control of the fight, and when she had an opportunity, she pounced on it.
35 though?
Yeah.
So it could be time.
Exactly. Right. This right now is the moment to press the go button.
We got Jasmine talking about this exact thing, and that she's putting off the wedding for this.
So, do you want to stay this active? Are you looking for big names? What exactly do you want?
Kind of up to the guys. Whatever the route is to that #1 spot. I don't care who they've put in front of me. I don't care about who fights who. I don't know. They'll figure all that stuff out. I just want to see Jasmine Jasdavicius #1 champion of the world.
So this time next year, do you think it says #1 next to your name?
I'd say so. Keep running on this kind of trajectory.
They said that you are delaying your wedding until you get the belt, that you want the belt before the ring. Is that accurate?
I'm not here for a long time. I want to stay active. But I also want to have a nice wedding and plan it and enjoy doing that. And I understand that there are sacrifices that I have to make. I'm coming for that #1 spot, and afterwards we'll be able to get married, and it will be a spectacular show.
You can bring the belt to the wedding.
Exactly.
So she's ambitious. The work ethic is there. She's raised her game in her craft. But Luke, from what we see right now, is she title material? Is she good enough to win this championship in your eyes? Is there room for more growth would what she did to Andrade translate at all to the elite?
Well, she might already be there. I don't know. What I would say is,
it's a busy division. We got Macy Barber coming up against Blanchfield.
Yeah. You were asking like who deserves the title shot. The problem is you've got Blanchfield and Barber. You know, you have Grasso and Fiorot, but they've kind of fizzled out now. And then the next two in line would be Blanchfield and Barber. So the winner of that one, which is coming up, is probably going to settle that question.
So do you think? Oh, so you think they would get the Blanchfield Barber winner would get it ahead of Silva?
I think winner of that fights Silva, and then you do Valentina versus either Weili.
That's a fair point.
Bantamweight in the meantime.
Yeah, that might be the right answer.
There you go, right there. Interesting stuff playing out at the 125 division. Topic number 4, though, we continue on to the big hits down this UFC 315 card, and Jose Aldo was a big one. We didn't seem to love the matchmaking for the third straight fight, but Ayman Zahabi, who took home a disputed 3-round decision, at least co-authored a fun as hell final round that was all action, and then, surprisingly for me, led to Jose Aldo directly to the King of Hio's second retirement. So, Luke, Jose appeared to put the gloves down for good again. He said his body would not allow him to cut down to 135 this time around. That's why this fight was a featherweight bout. Do you believe that this is true, that this is the end of Jose Aldo's UFC career or combat sports participation in general? And if it is, should I move on past the regrets I have of the matchmaking that these were the last 3 Jose Aldo fights we saw rather than Dominic Cruz, Pitbull, et cetera, et cetera?
All right, so let me say this. I do hope it's the end for him. He's taken an enormous amount of abuse,
but he's still really competent.
He's still very competent. Dude, you don't need to stop when you're completely destroyed. You can stop before that. That's what people fail to realize. He's already absorbed a lifetime's worth of CTE. I'm sorry he has. I guarantee you.
Can we show that pic of him in the cage? This is sad. This was sad to see. This was like the final image, you know?
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like,
and he won that fight, dude. He won that fight.
He probably should have. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little closer than the internet will tell you, but I do agree he probably should have won. But it's like, dude, he agreed to this fight. People keep saying, like, the UFC did this to him. It's like, he's a grown fucking man. And it's not in the middle of his career, the very, very end of it. If he doesn't want to be in these kinds of fights, don't accept them. But I also agree. I mean, here's the problem, right, BC? I could accept him losing. I could accept him taking some punishment, even at this stage, if we were in fights that made a little bit more sense. And, like, it's a boost to Ayman Zahabi, but he's also a little bit long in the tooth. I don't know what he's really going to be able to get out of it.
35. He's riding now a 6-fight win streak.
Which is great for him, but I don't know exactly what it's going to amount to in the end. Same with Bautista. I don't really know what's going to amount to in the end.
Yeah, let's show the 3 fights. Here's a closer look at the recent ledger of Jose Aldo. This is after the loss to Merab, the current champion.
And look at the caption here. He writes, "What a horribly managed comeback run for Jose Aldo. Came back, fought opponents nobody wanted to see him, and it went 1-2, and arguably, could have gone 3-0, I suppose." The UFC gave him the wrong fights. There's really no argument around that.
Didn't they learn that from Silva, giving him Cannonier and Brunson? And
this is what they like to do. If you want to stick around, they're going to use what's left of the husk that is your body.
DJ Penn, Tony Ferguson.
They're going to farm it out to whatever they can farm it out to. Dude, Frankie Edgar fought Chris Gutierrez in the Garden, and that was I think that was his last one, if I believe. Like, where's Chris Gutierrez now? He's a good fighter, but like, did it necessarily lift him to great heights? It didn't do any of that. Meanwhile, Frankie's career kind of just comes to like a limping close. Dude, they should have fucking done Pitbull versus Aldo.
What about like a Peyton Talbot? Like a bigger prospect coming in?
Maybe something like that.
Like a Chihuihuas.
Chihuihuas, I don't know, but they should have done Dominic Cruz. Like, these were the fights people wanted to see. These were the ones. And by the way, now that Aldo's gone, it's just fights like Poirier. It's just guys like Hani Yahya, who are the last WEC fighters on the roster. Now, I know Cruz has since hung it up, but like, they mismanaged the end of this for one of the very best guys to ever do it. They should not have been putting him in fights that the fans were kind of sour on to begin with, that didn't really lift the winners ultimately in the way that they, I think, kind of envisioned it. And in the end, who's satisfied by this? Obviously, if you're Ayman Zahabi, he fought, I think, especially... Dude, he got soccer kicked in the goddamn face.
I don't know how he didn't get finished there.
Unbelievable resiliency. Like, I tip my hat to Ayman Zahabi.
He got kneed to the face, and as he was falling back, he got
fucking soccer kicked. Like, dude, straight up amazing job by him. But I'm just saying, we're taking some of these legends and we're grinding them into dust for gains that are not exactly clear to me at all. Who's winning here? Who's winning?
I mean, would you have rather had him against Conor McGregor in a rematch than like a stupid fight
Did you see
like
that
this?
video Conor put out of him training?
No.
Looked like he was moving through molasses.
Well, if you're questioning if this is the end of Aldo's UFC run, I think it is. And then the 5-tweet run that he put out yesterday that basically just reiterated the thoughts that he gave in the octagon about his body giving up on him and him for the first time feeling like, okay, like it's almost like the baseball players that are, the famous ones that say like the moment it became a job for them, they're like, okay, I need to retire now. I know it. That's the moment. But Luke, money talks and this guy's competitive. And look at Manny Pacquiao coming back at 46 years old this July to fight again for a world title. Do you feel like BKFC is going to call in a year and then he's going to box Mike Perry without gloves for big money and win maybe, and or just insert name, right? And like, do you see Jose Aldo being done for good, or do you think it's just freaking inevitable?
I mean, he did say something kind of interesting, and I tweeted it yesterday when he was saying he was cutting weight, and then a voice spoke to him, being like, "You don't have to do this anymore."
Well, you're down a class from your elite weight at this age, like. There's ways to do this more lazy if you wanted to be fair,
But I agree with him. Like, dude, like what's motivating him to just, I mean, keep the win streak going, but I don't know.
What win streak?
Not the win streak, but in his mind, I don't think he's lost. I mean, there's part of that, but I think the issue is, what is the fucking point of this? Like, what is the fucking point of all of this? You're putting him in a place where the judges probably didn't do the right job in awarding him this contest. You're against an opponent that, again, I give a ton of respect to Ayman Zahabi, who has, managed to have the best run of his career right at the very end of it, or close to the end of it, and that's tough.
He brought
to
GSP
do.
back.
Amazing job by him. But these are not the fights that the fans requested.
Right.
And I don't know what's going to do for him long term. Meanwhile, you're watching one of the very fucking legends of the game just get put through the grinder, and you're like, how does it make you feel now? You don't feel like we're supposed to feel elevated when we watch a legend come back for something. It's supposed to be romantic to a degree. It seems ordinary.
Him and Dom Cruz could have fought, and no matter the result, there could have been full Bushido. Everyone standing, giving both a standing ovation on their way out. It's like a perfect way. It's not like you could. There's ways to pass the torch when you have that elite young prospect, which is why I felt like a Patty versus Conor pay-per-view fight should have already happened, okay? You can also just let two legends go out one more time, shake hands, get the rub, and be out of there. Yeah. I mean, that's what it probably better would have felt like. The rest of 315, though, Luke, that early to open the pay-per-view main card of Benoit Saint Denis shaking off a 2-fight losing skid.
He looked like shit. I'm sorry.
For a while against Kyle Prepolek, and then he gets the submission with the arm triangle choke in round 2.
Yeah.
He needed it to stop the streak. But I agree, it didn't scream.
Dude, he got lit up.
Yeah.
How was that possible? You take it on a guy who washed out of UFC, who put together a decent win streak, 4-1 on the regional scene, comes back, is clearly outgunned. Listen, BSD won that fight because he's just an aggression machine, and he does have some pretty good grappling. I'll give him credit there. But
he got rocked a few times.
Dude, his head looks like it was glued onto his shoulders because of the lack of movement. There's nothing defensive. Just walking the guy down. And so Prepolek kept fucking landing on him. And I'm like, dude, buddy, you can't beat anybody good fighting like this. You will not beat anybody good fighting like this.
I hope he does. I hope we get to see the best of him in climbing the ranks. Because, the division's opening up with those older guard guys on the way out. That was supposed to be what that Poirier fight was. Like a pat,
But dude, you could, like, this guy being like, oh, I didn't use a coach the last 2 camps. Yeah, put the camera on me. Ready? Here we go. It shows. It shows.
I'm sure we're going to have a Don Davis put the camera on me moment soon. But before we close out 315, Mike Malott was getting put on him at times against Charles Radke in a fun little scrap. But, dude, Malott got the hometown pop there in the prelim featured fight. Are you back on the bandwagon of the Canadian slugger?
No. I mean, I'll say this.
It was exciting.
Great performance. Dude, he was treating Radke's head like a double end.
Dude, that was a brutal ground and pound finish.
Did you see the overhead shot?
Yes.
I mean, we can't show the replay here.
No.
But Radke's head is just getting like speed bagged. So that was, it's got to feel great for Mike. That was a great comeback win. I don't know what it means for his future, BC, if I'm just being honest with you. But he had the Canadian crowds all in their feels. So for
Marc-Andre Barrio looked like a Canadian destroyer, and did he dent the skull of Bruno Silva in that first round KO?
It was a bad KO,
dude.
bro.
Damn, they brought in the stretcher.
People might not appreciate this. I remember watching UFC when they would have a serious medical event in the octagon, and then they wouldn't show it, and they wouldn't update you on the broadcast. And this was some years ago.
Yeah.
This was the Spike TV era.
They didn't have the insurance to cover it, I'm sure.
No, you have to have insurance to cover it by law. You couldn't. They didn't have.
We're gonna need you guys to die outside.
No. They had to cover that stuff even then, but they didn't have transparency to the public about why they were doing it. And I think they've amended this. This is not a new thing that they're doing, but this was a good illustration of just how much better they've gotten about this issue, where they showed him being stretchered out, which they did not do back in the day, and then gave us, through Brendan Fitzgerald, a series of medical updates about him. And by the way, I want to say something as a bit of a side note.
Yeah.
They had Brendan Fitzgerald doing locker room reporting, cage side reporting, medical updates, and hosting the desk. He did all of it flawlessly.
Yeah.
He is such a good broadcaster. It is shocking.
He's very good. And he just followed me on Instagram. So shout out to
Nice.
that guy.
There you go.
Long Island Luke, you give you credit. The curtain jerker of the evening at Bantamweight, you said Bekzat Almakhan?
Yeah, Almakhan.
Almakhan was a potential killer, and he killed Brad Katona in just over a minute. Yo.
Yeah, he looked good. Luke thinks Katona kind of looks like
he's
not so great.
Yeah,
I think it was
he's not good.
Almakhan looking good.
It is Almakhan looking good. Also, Katona's not that good. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but
Any other donks you want to talk about on this card? I mean, shout out to Lithuania, Modestus.
so the scoring in
Yeah,
that
there was a
one,
couple
what the
rough
fuck was
scorecards
that?
there.
I can't even get angry about it anymore.
I mean, they are kind of meaningless fights, unfortunately. and
Well,
it's
no,
just
I mean, the
like-
right guy won, so it's not even that, but like 30-27 the other way, you're like, what do you even say to something like that? I don't even know what to say.
I say it's time for topic number. Oh, and Long Island, look, you always have something to say about the deep undercard. You want to go on the dark web and tell us anything here?
No, I mean, Bukauskas getting that nod was a little iffy. Also, Daniel Santos over Jung Young Lee, I feel like that was a little iffy too. But
Could you have scored it for Farrell? Did you score it for her?
No, I had it 145 for Chevy.
Sorry, what am I saying? The Bukowski scoring was wrong. Well, the 29-28, how did you score that bout?
I don't remember my exact scoring, but I remember thinking Kutalaba won, and
Yes.
then they read the scorecards.
Yes. So 30-27 the other way, excuse me. I think I remember thinking that like maybe you could find a round and a half for him if you really squinted, but what are you going to do?
Here we go. Topic number 5. Luke, it was Friday of last week. I'm not doing a bit here. When I realized Paul Hughes, maybe the biggest and brightest thing going outside of Dakota Ditcheva in the PFL, that he was fighting this past weekend in Dublin, no doubt. And when that happens, you expect a raucous crowd and atmosphere. It was. Here's the problem. Nobody knew about it, and it wasn't on American television. Now, in the end, the rising star Paul Hughes bounced back from the loss to Usman Nurmagomedov in that thriller earlier this year. Needed just 42 seconds to finish Bruno Miranda. Had an emotional call out of Nurmagomedov for a rematch afterwards. But when there's zero opportunity for US fans to watch it live, when no one seems to know it's even happening, and now Don Davis comes out on Twitter and attempts to try to be the hero, can we throw to this tweet, please? This was not from LinkedIn. This was on Twitter. PFL fans in USA, you asked for it?
We pulled this off of Microsoft Teams and Slack.
And PFL MMA will deliver it. Whoa. All PFL International League fights will be available for free to watch in the USA moving forward, starting June 1st. Details coming in major announcement from PFL MMA. Luke, that's similar to the victory lap he took by saying the fans wanted elbows, so we put elbows in MMA. Hey, Dom, the fans want you to drop this tournament format, stop having 18 champions and 15 feeder leagues, and just declare who your best fighters are and have them fight for belts, and then we'll get behind it, rather than what we're getting here. Either way, incredible atmosphere. But is it too hard to look past the Don Davis side of it and not guess if this company's still going to be around in 2 years? Because
they're not going to be.
This great moment happened that probably should have been, their leading note of this first half of the year based on the rivalry building between these guys. And they barely promoted it. It wasn't even, you couldn't even watch it.
Here's what blows my mind is that the UFC, like if Paul Hughes was the UFC and he was coming off of that loss to Usman Nurmagomedov, could there be a world where he fought this Miranda kid in the same kind of way? Well, maybe, in the sense that they would have booked Hughes against somebody else, and if that other person had fallen out and they had called this guy in last minute, they would have done it. The point I'm trying to make is they actually, if you look at the show itself, from whether we couldn't get it here. So if you illegally streamed it somehow and you watched it, it looked good on TV. Hughes, set that crowd on fire. But the bigger point I wanted to make was, this is Strikeforce. Strikeforce would take a guy off of a big win, and they might give him another big fight after that, but sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they would give him a guy that they knew he could easily beat, and he would, in fact, easily beat him. It would be red meat to the fans in attendance, to online, and it would build his star power. And then the one after that, they would give him another tough fight again. So what I'm saying is, I don't even mind that the fact that the fight was 43 seconds. It looked good on TV. It looked good for the crowd. It's only going to, he gets a win back. It gets the seminal moment for Irish MMA history.
It's a big moment for PFL if it's presented.
And you've got no one in the States who even knew about it or had access to it. I don't use this phrase very often, BC, but I'm going to bring it back out because it's relevant. This is promotional malpractice. This is promotional malpractice. This is doing it wrong. This is doing it wrong.
And the fans spoke and he delivered. So moving forward.
And then to be like, oh, we're listening to the fans. You don't have a domestic fan base, Don. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, we're listening to the fans. You mean the complaints that have been lobbied about the access to the premier guys? And by the way, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not even saying they're doing a bad job matchmaking him. I'm actually saying it's a pretty good job. But if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to see it, right? We know the whole, This is what I'm talking about. And by the way, we hear that like sometimes he'll DM media guys when they say critical things.
Yes.
Because I haven't gotten one of those yet. Have you gotten one of those yet?
No, I'd love to. I'd love to have a chat with him about this kind of stuff because it's like,
it's promotional malpractice to have one of your most exciting talents and not promote him and not even have a way for people in the U.S. to access it.
And I'm sorry, the thing that they spend all their money and time promoting are these tournaments that don't actually lead to becoming champion. And it's kind of in some ways they're second tier fighters. So it's like, what about their first tier fighters? Oh, they are either sitting out waiting for the next pay-per-view if it happens, or
they're at the Road to Dubai, South Africa Champion
Series. Or they are
Series.
going on a major podcast and complaining publicly like Ditcheva had to do to then get a fight announced the next day. So let's show from a fan cam. Here was the in-arena excitement. And this is all part of Dublin and these incredible fight fans in Irish combat sports, but listen in on this. This kid's a fucking star.
Yeah, he is.
Let's check out this tweet, too, from Pete Carroll, who from Uncrowned provided great coverage coming in and coming out of it. He said, the world should have been able to see this tonight so they can understand what Paul Hughes means to these people. One of the best atmospheres I've experienced covering the sport in 15 plus years on this island. I mean, like,
dude, they're going to go out of business and MMA is going to be poorer for it.
Can the rematch save them? Because this should have been the thing.
Nothing can save them.
After their first fight, which was so great, and they put it for free on social media, on YouTube, and then they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to be off for 2 months.
It's going to be so bad for MMA when a promotion like this goes. It's going to be terrible.
All right, let's hear Paul Hughes talk about this rematch.
I will never, ever, ever forget the entire experience, but I could see a blacked out stadium with the lights, and I heard every single person singing at the same time, and that is just something I will go to the grave with. I mean, I believe I'm one of the best pound for pound on the planet. I truly, truly believe that. I think that when I get to fight and beat Usman, that will be more proof that I am that guy. I just need to beat him first. It has to be next. The PFL would be absolutely crazy not to make that fight next. So make the fight as soon as possible. Let's get it done.
I mean, seriously, drop everything you're doing. I'm sorry, drop PFL Mina and all the, like, it's cool that you have this blueprint of how you're going to build up this world, system. You're never going to get there unless you're actually using your assets. Where the frick is Patchy Mix? How the hell did you let Aaron Pico go?
Dude, they're stuck between we have to differentiate our brand to get money.
To confuse.
Right. we have to confuse our brand to get money, but as a consequence, they can't grow an audience because everything is so confusing and they make bad decisions.
And
that's where we are.
All Don does is pass it off as the MMA media being negative. It's like you don't have the leverage to do the Dana White move and say that.
Also, we're negative because we're right.
Because we want you to succeed. And it's like, what the hell is going on
Can you
here?
imagine looking at a burning building and be like, why are you guys so negative about this building's future prospects? Well, it's on fucking fire.
What's the best thing PFL can do to make this rematch huge to put a lot of positive PR in them?
World Tour, PR, World Tour, and book it in a venue
with fans,
sell domestically, and full court press on doing media.
So you're talking about like Boston, or are you talking about putting?
Yeah, Boston would be a great idea. TD Garden, if you could sell it. But this is the point I'm trying to make. You laughed at me when I brought this up, you see, but when they came to DC with Francis and Jake Paul, and I talked to my friends over at the Washington Post, I was like, did they even come to you guys and pitch you? And they didn't. It was one thing not to pitch me.
Sure.
But they didn't even pitch the Washington Post. Like, how do you come to DC and you don't even bother with him? You didn't bother with Fox 5. You didn't bother with any of these other outlets that are typically pretty receptive to this kind of thing. They have to stop that. They have to get out there, hit the pavement. You got to come see this kid. We've got one of the most exciting. They can literally say to the camera, we've got one of the most exciting fighters, irrespective of weight class in the entire sport, and they're telling the truth. If you can't sell tickets based off of that, Bubba, you can't sell tickets.
Should that be a pay-per-view? Should you put Ditcheva in the co-main and make that a pay-per-view?
Fuck no, put that on ESPN. Put that on ESPN.
That'd be awesome.
Put that on ESPN. Put that on ESPN, and I'm telling you, it's a different ball game under that consideration.
Dude, I wish they promoted that like a pro wrestling promotion from the 80s would, meaning every show we've got a sit-down interview segment with Paul Hughes to continue to churn up talk to that rematch. Every one of these tournament shows, like, it's got to be about what you're building toward. They never educate to the fans what they're building toward on anything. It's Don will just say, oh, yeah, we'll just do the Champions League series at the end of the year.
Yeah.
For what? Another meaningless belt that you're going to create that's going to disappear the second it's competed for?
Yeah.
Johnny Eblin's fighting soon. He's the middleweight champion of what?
Yeah.
Bellator, PFL of what?
Yeah, again, in that press release where they announced that Eblin and Ditcheva were coming back, Eblin was listed as the weight class champ. Ditcheva was listed as the tournament champ. But you don't. There's the differentiation in how it's described is modest, and if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't even know. It's the whole thing.
Comical
is
malpractice.
It's fucking ridiculous.
It depresses me, but
and the sad part is it's going to be bad for MMA when they go. It's going to be really, really bad. But what can I say?
And you can reach the show in the future, folks, including Friday's episode when we will take your fan subs and post your dead wrongs by reaching out to morningkombat@gmail.com. Tell Mikey we said hi. Or you said hi, but just don't show any pictures of your privates. Thank you so much. Luke, you know how much I love boxing, the Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota, New York. And by proxy, I heard about it for years, the experience of the Boxing Hall of Fame weekend, the International Boxing Hall of Fame there. I called a couple showbox fights back in the day on that weekend. And how about this? Friday, June 6th, a really fun collaboration coming up between Salida Promotions and All the Smoke Fight as they present Hall of Fame Fight Night. It'll air live on DAZN Friday, June 6th at the Turning Stone Resort Casino in Verona, New York, one town over there from Canastota, and the legendary HOF. USBA titleist Brandon Moore will face unbeaten and dangerous Stanley Wright in the main event in a matchup of American heavyweights. We're also going to see Franchon Cruz-Dezurn defend her unified world champion on the undercard. Some rising contenders as well. And this is a pretty cool collaboration here. We're getting All the Smoke Fight on the scene. Andre Ward as well. Sit-downs, interviews with the Hall of Famers. Manny Pacquiao going in that weekend, by the way.
Is he really?
Just a month before he is going to come out of retirement at age 46.
God.
So
happy about him going to the Hall of Fame, though. Sure, I feel about the fight. But him going to the Hall of Fame, very cool.
I hope I get to call it. That'd be fantastic.
Do you know if you are?
I don't know yet. I'll be calling.
What's the next fight you're calling?
Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo in separate fights, May 31st, PBC on Prime. But
it's T-Mobile?
That is at I don't know. Actually, I got to check. I don't think T-Mobile.
Okay.
I got to figure that out. It could be Mandalay Bay.
Could be Mandalay.
Excited about this. Friday, June 6th, of course, they're live on DAZN at the Turning Stone Resort Casino. Should be a good time. Hall of Fame Fight Night. So, Luke Thomas, those are our 5 topics put to bed. We do have an opportunity for the fans to reach out to us and touch us a little at morningkombat@gmail on Instagram and on X Sunday nights, and you did that. So here are your questions. They're called DMs from Donks. Yeah, that was pretty gross, Luke.
I hate it.
All right, let's hear the first question. This is from @Rick Bolden. Who ends 2025, Luke Thomas, as the UFC welterweight and lightweight champion? Great question in light of everything going on right now. You're like Ilia, Topuria, both of them.
Ilia, Topuria for a lightweight, for sure. The welterweight one's a little more interesting to me.
Okay, where are we at right now? We are in the month of May.
Yep. We have
a new champion.
Potentially 2 more fights. Potentially.
The
It's a
new
little
champion will
aggressive.
defend once in the next, 4 months? 5 months?
Probably.
It might be against Makhachev. But he won't fight again, Makhachev, the winner, if he wins.
Unlikely, but it's possible.
It's going to be...
Is it going to be Ilia and
It's
Islam?
going to be me.
It's going to be shitty if I will say this. It's going to be shitty if they both move up weight classes and then become champions immediately, and then we still miss that fight. You know what I mean?
What do you make of Islam on social media? I saw saying that he doesn't necessarily have to give up the belt. He just wants to move up, become a 2
fighters say lots of things.
Okay.
That's nice when they do that. They say lots of things.
I'm going to go Islam right now.
Ooh.
Islam will close the year.
Ooh.
But I mean, we need to see it.
Yeah, we do.
We freaking need to see it. Next question coming in, hot and heavy from @Hazma B17. If JDM beats Islam later this year, does that win him Fighter of the Year? Yeah, if you win the championship in the same year that you beat the #1 pound for pound fighter to make your first title defense,
It could. And then someone's going to go, yeah, but this other guy fought 3 times, and that guy fought 2 times, and 3's a bigger number than 2, so therefore 3
That's
is
a
the
good
winner.
impression of Corey Sandhagen in that skit there that he did.
I couldn't stand those people about this Poatan Ilia argument.
I mean, what if Topuria wins the title against Charles, if that happens, and then gets a second fight against whom? Gaethje?
Dude, are they going to make a Patty fight if Topuria wins?
Yeah, they would. And that would be a big deal, and it should be a big
And then
deal.
Topuria sending his mouthpiece into orbit would be... Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like,
Imagine
well, no, it would be Topuria in that case, because he'd be going up a weight class, and then under the scenario that we're positing, he'd be doing...
It'd be close.
It'd be, yeah.
Imagine if they were both in the running for Fight of the Year. We're like, why don't you just fight each other to close the year?
Yeah, that's what you should do.
That's what you should do.
Tip
right
to
there.
tip.
There we go. Let's see the next question from our viewers. This is from @Taekwondo.
No,
Taekwondo Dude Memes. Is Shavkat officially the biggest loser in MMA right now? He's clearly not next at 170. And who knows what would happen if Islam wins the belt and then tries to defend the 55-2.
He definitely took a hit. There's
There was
no
a picture of him on social media wearing a
cast?
Cast, yes.
I was going to say, like the Infinity Gauntlet?
Like he
what are we
just had
talking?
surgery, it seems.
That'd be cool if you broke your arm and they gave you a cast that was like the Infinity Gauntlet. That'd be kind of sick.
Dude, whoever's the champion, like when it's Shavkat's time, it's not like he's going to do a ton of media ahead of it. Like it's just going to we're going to find out he's healthy and it's going to be his time.
Yeah,
And
he definitely. I mean, here's the problem, dude. Like, even if you have to sit out because of injury, like you just have to sit out. Oh my God, MMA moves fast. Buckley, here he comes running up. Here comes Ian
like,
Gary.
you think he
running
might
up.
lose his spot? Meaning they might say,
Yes.
"I'm sorry, you're going to have to come back and fight the winner, of Buckley Usman." You're gonna have to,
Yes. They could that absolutely.
Welterweight's fun. I mean, we're just going to add the best fighter in the world.
It's
into
a fucking Shark Tank.
It really
love
is. Yeah. Let's see the next question from the people. This is from @Probably Brian. What is your favorite Bushido moment in MMA? Mine is Lyoto Machida bowing after front kicking Vitor's head into the stratosphere. That was a cold but sweet Bushido moment right there. Luke, I mean, there was some girl Shido. Can you run that Valentina Joanna clip for a second here? We'll speak over it. Look, I enjoyed this girl Shido moment when Valentina defended the title, proved her greatness, and then it was like the receiving line after a wedding, Luke. I don't know who that is. Who's that right there?
I'm gonna do like Deuce Bigelow. That's a huge bitch.
Yeah. There's Joanna champion. Luke, we love Bushido because we get it these days so few and far between.
Yeah, mostly it's just we love Hitler and the N-word's cool again.
Is there a historic Bushido moment that jumps out at you? What? Who got on their knees and cried when it was somebody's last fight recently, and it was like, you know what I'm talking about?
Fuck was that?
What, the noise that you heard?
Yeah.
Look, what fight am I referencing when somebody had their last fight and then the opponent like prayed over them and like hugged them on the ground afterwards?
I don't know.
And like bowed in front
I like
of them?
vaguely know what you're talking about. I can't remember though.
Lyoto's had a few of those. You know, he did it to Ryan Bader too, I believe. So
I don't know if that's pure. I mean, it is It is Bushido, but it's also like this badass celebration on top.
Yeah, but also like, it's showing respect to a guy who is your opponent. I might say it's slightly different, but Genki Sudo having the "We Are All One" flag that he would take with him and show the crowd everywhere, even when he had crazy ass fights, even against like Butterbean and stuff like that. Like just trying to show community and unity rather than what we get now, which is N-word jokes.
How about that time that Tito like had his last fight and then Forrest Griffin just commandeered the microphone?
I don't remember that. Oh, that's right. Holy shit, I forgot about that. That wasn't that.
That
nice.
was like drunken uncle at your wedding.
You ever seen Tito's new ads for his business?
Yeah, they're coming.
Yeah, he spells tequila wrong on the.
He does a lot of those things regularly.
Yeah.
Do we have a final question from the people, or does that wrap it?
Oh, here we
wow.
go.
From @ZRiggs. If you could truth serum turkey, what would you ask? I always play this game with Dana White. Like, if you could know one truth, if you can ask Dana White right now one question, he has to give you an honest answer. But now we're doing it turkey style. What would you ask him?
Are you evil?
Have you
truth serum?
Have you done the math yourself to have an opinion on it?
I'm asking. You're asking what you're asking, like, what could I ask him that get an interesting response if he had to like a complete 100% commitment to the truth? Are you evil? I'd be curious to hear what he had to say.
All right, interesting.
Don't you remember the song from Metallica? Am I evil?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, I am.
I mean, I have decently funny answers, but will they get me into hot water? That's the question. I'm trying to avoid that these days.
Who's the guy over there who's looking like a fucking
our boy Rick Reno?
Rick Reno.
Yeah.
That's Turkey. I don't know what I would ask him, to be honest with you. I'm just making something up.
I'd be like, Rick Reno, how many of
Reno's
these
a little
outfits
more,
you got? That's
Reno's
what I
a
wanna
little
see.
more interesting to me.
Yeah.
Rick, Rick, what you wearing, bud?
I mean, we could ask Turkey. Do we want to know the answers with Turkey? That's the
I'm not sure I do.
Yeah. Interesting. Those are the 5 questions from the fans. Thank you very much for playing. We'll see you next week. We have one more segment for you, and it's when I, on Sunday, scour the globe for the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between, in the world of combat sports and beyond. This one's called Have You Seen This Shit? UFC 315 was in Montreal, Luke, and although we didn't get many sound bites from Dana this week, he did respond when they said, I thought you don't do stadiums. What's up with Bud Canelo?
You throw more punches, so I'm curious, what kind of fight can we expect from you against Valentina?
Sorry, that was the
Saturday?
wrong one, but that's hilarious. I read it out of order. That was to kick off the 315 press conference. Maybe that's why Dana barely played ball.
Hell yeah,
on this.
those are MK donks, I bet.
Here's the question about the dome.
What convinced you to do it in the stadium? I know you like the experience. I got better the experience at the arena.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it. So because I hate it so much, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to make it an incredible experience inside Allegiant.
Then
I don't understand that at all.
If he succeeds with Bud Canelo being an in-arena like Dynamo, like it probably will be, I mean, he has been to big-time boxing events. They always...
Hold on.
They thrill these big ones.
The entire answer makes no sense. First of all, why would you want someone working on this who detests the concept of it? You're not going to get the best out of that, period. You're just
But
not.
won't this force him, like Ronda Rousey's success and star power forced his hand on women's MMA? Won't this force him to go, oh my God, this was awesome and we did it right? Jones Aspinall
I like
in
how
a
people
stadium.
think he's going to rethink 25 years of the way he's been promoting for one card. You're out of your fucking mind. That's not going to happen. More to the point, he disdains the very concept of it. And even more than that, we've already seen people do very successful arena shows in MMA and boxing. There's already a blueprint. He's like, I have to go figure this out like no one's done it before. 1 million people have Octagon does it in Europe several times a year. KSW does it several times a year. Pride did it when I was in fucking college. What?
Yeah, can we show the first Dana White clip again with the fans?
You throw more punches, so I'm curious, what kind of fight can we expect from you against Valentina on Saturday?
Oh, yeah. 315 also gave us the UFC weigh-in show being wild. Let's watch this beer chug competition.
This first? No, just twist it there. Twist. Once. Good. Yep.
This is like hot potato. Whoever it lands on, you got to drink it.
This used to be MK.
Remember when we used to do...
Oh, you got to drink.
Buy me a drink. There you go. Go. Drink it, Lord. Drink it. Go.
They just get after it with the...
Shouts to Dan Helly, DC Sports legend.
Stay go. Good job.
Seiko commits to the bits on this.
Yeah, she does. This weigh-in show is one of the best things UFC does.
Lord, just a little
It reminds me of
more.
MK.
Please finish it.
The old
Laura,
MP.
you're a
That's like me
champion.
on the
Come
inhaler
Tank.
after I've been smoking weed all day.
Laura, you are a winner in everything you do. Finish this.
I can't.
Yes, you can. Laura, you are better than this.
Wow, that's like a pro wrestling level commitment there from Senko. I like that.
DC's dumping it all out on the floor.
It's really hard to do that.
Oh, it's good.
DC's like, let me get these calories if you don't need them. All right, let's keep it going here. Also, RJ Clifford had the one-liner of the week. You love this guy, right?
I love RJ.
Are you a bigger fan of Jessica Andrade than I am of Shavkat?
It's very close.
With me, it's a little bit more sexual. But I would say.
Oh my God. Oh.
People are mad about my Ngannou joke, right?
Got him.
Oh my God. I'm a little surprised. I mean, I guess I was going to say I'm surprised he didn't get in trouble for that at work. But, you know, you can just say you like Adolf Hitler at this job, and then I'm not going to do shit about it. But RJ is the man. He long-time guy at SiriusXM. I think he's still there. He's great.
Not pictured at UFC 315 was maybe the most important man in MMA right now in terms of get your shit together. John Jones, he was in Thailand, Luke. But this video came out of him, huh?
Залик уже взял свою команду Джонса.
Все, он моя команда, my team, as global.
So I mean.
Well, it's good to see him sober, you know?
Yeah, is he training for the Aspinall fight? Is that what's happening? What the hell's going on here?
I don't fucking know. Who knows?
This is MMA in 2025,
yeah,
okay?
right.
Get ready for Aspinall gone and just like it.
Yeah, hey, Paul Hughes might be fighting today. We don't even know.
We don't know.
We don't even know.
All right, time for your regular folk fights of the week here. Let's go to this bar and watch this action, Luke. It started off fun and games, but it gets serious quickly.
Is this two dudes? I can't even tell.
Well, look at this guy going for the curb stomp.
Oh.
Dude, come on.
Hey, I mean, that's just cheap.
Oh, good
Hey,
Lord.
Jesus, guy.
Bunch of white frat kids, Luke. These are your folk.
What the? Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're damn right they are. Mi gente.
All right. Decent scrap. Let's go to the Red Rock Casino in Vegas. Here's your real folk fight of the week.
Do what the fuck you gotta do. What's up? Do what the fuck you gotta do.
Big Hefty here. Is he going to swing?
What's up?
Oh, doing a lot of the what's up talk?
Oh, what's down, dude?
Hey, you know what? My man in the hoodie tried to help. They didn't listen. Oh, now he's talking shit to the.
He's like, I'm scared. Yeah.
Oh, he's trying to. Oh, did he break his leg? Oh, he did the crow cop.
Yeah.
After getting head kicked by Gabriel Gonzaga.
Damn. Let's also go to the alleyway. Watch this fax machine take a moment in this fight. Oh boy. Okay. I don't know the context of that situation, but that's wild.
Show that one more time. Yo, I gotta send you a fax.
Yeah. She kept it 100 with the fax right there. Wow. Old white guys at a NASCAR event. Yeah, we'll watch them scrap, Luke. Check this out.
Who's not gonna see that?
No, it's Truex is the best.
Don't you tell them Dale Senior jokes no more.
Don't you talk about the king, right? Wow.
Don't you talk about the king of this racetrack.
All right, time for some nut shots. Let's go to the breakdance. Okay, that's
PC now warming up.
Okay.
For MJ right
there. Let's go to the soccer pitch. See if anyone can take it to the nuts here. Oh boy, that is that is a fully right there.
Is that the Saudi Arabian league too?
Yeah, I think so. Yo.
You know what? Hey, it's better than getting bone sawed.
Luke, the lady that you have voted MVP of this segment is the crazy cake lady from France. Let's check in on her, okay?
Fucking. Oh God.
Okay.
Stop eating things, you crazy lady.
Imagine if she just pulls out like just strips a guy's pants down and just.
She's gonna cut off her leg, and it's just gonna be. Oh, here we go. What? Oh my God, you are a disgusting animal. Put her in the zoo. How about that?
We need to see under the Showtime budget. I bet you I could have convinced Daniel Snyder's nephew to fly her in.
Yeah.
For an MK episode where she just like
starts cutting up the MK set.
Yeah, it's like your vape. She just takes a bite out of it. It's cake. You know, it's like, oh,
disgusting.
That'd be great.
Disgusting.
Elder abuse time, Luke. This is why you don't drink beer on trains, right?
Okay. I don't know what city this is in.
Oh God. Okay, sir. That is hang on to those rails here.
Let's see what's happening here.
No, that's the end of it. He took a facial right there. All right, let's see. This is why I don't mess with like bullfighting or the running of the bulls or anything to do with the bulls. Pretty much, I don't even go to Chicago.
Okay, that's. Oh my God! Hey guys, stop messing with gigantic horned animals.
All right, Luke. What do you do when a friend accidentally puts a hole in your wall? You know. I mean, that'll fix it. Let's go to the barbershop. Haircuts of the week time, Luke. Okay. Yeah. Score one for feminism, Luke.
I gotta say, it seems like truth in advertising.
Okay. All right. If you thought that haircut was good, give me the
fucking cunt.
Give me the Post Malone when you go to the barber next time.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, just send this person to El Salvador to die in a gulag.
Is that art? That's kind of art, right?
I mean, it's art of a certain kind, yeah.
All right. Would you smoke that joint right out of that guy's
Of course.
head?
What kind of a fucking question
All right.
is
Would
that?
you joke? Would you smoke the giant Benjamin coming up in this next clip?
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
No, it gets the extra flavor.
Extra butter?
Yeah, extra flavor.
He's holding it very phallic.
Do you think that would deter me? Because it wouldn't.
Okay. My late uncle used to tell a story about hitchhiking in the late 70s across the west coast of our country.
Was he the Zodiac killer?
He could have been confused as it. He said one time it was in the back seat of a 2-seat sedan, and the guys were like, "Hey, you mind if we smoke?" He's like, "Yeah, no problem." He said they pulled out a giant wooden long bong that's shaped like a boner, and they were like,
Maybe those guys should stop hitchhiking and buying drugs and just put their money towards a car.
"Yeah, that's wild." The way that story ends is even more wild, but we'll have to save that for a RSD.
I've seen the Zodiac Killer movie. I know how it ends.
All right. Local news bloopers continue to be the best. Watch the Spanish news broadcast, Luke.
That's not Spanish.
Okay, did you see that man?
Wow.
What is that, Luke? What language is that?
Portuguese.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad I got to see another man's ass today. I didn't get enough of that on the New York City subway.
Luke, take me down to the Paradise City where the grass is green and the girls have...
And if you're making last-minute dinner plans, you may have a hard time getting in some of the titties in some of the city's top spots.
That's my nightmare. That's my nightmare, is to be forever memorialized, being like, and just being on like local news and just being like, you know what, guys? I want to go for some titties. I mean... beers when this is over and everyone knows you're a fucking creep, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like also if you're like an old rich guy and you just want to get laid and then like everybody's making fun of your relationship.
Belichick and his girlfriend in the year 2000. Okay, that's
disgusting.
That's disturbing.
All right, we should cleanse the palate with the MLB arm break of the week. You into this? And he dropped it too, dude. That is rough.
Well, you know what? They play 172 games a season. We'll be back.
All right. New sport alert. It's called Ultimate Whip Fighting. You in? Why don't we just do it? It's executions, right?
Are white people sad they can't use whips anymore, so they just use it on each other? Like, what's the story here?
Look at that ref. Good Lord.
Dude, hey, Long Island Luke, have you heard of these two Aussie guys who are kind of like their own like jackass? And they do these things where they hurt each other for bits, but they commonly, I went on their Instagram page, I watched like 100 videos. They commonly hit each other with different types of whips. Have you seen this?
I have not, but I am intrigued.
Does it end in anal or what?
It ends with these guys whipping the fucking flesh off each other. It is so fucked up, but it's kind of funny when they howl in pain. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, it's time for your fart of the week. What do you think he ate to create that Chernobyl?
Send him to El Salvador, please.
Let's party, Luke. Everyone's invited. I hope that's not a problem. Remodeling.
That's what you get for partying loudly.
Okay, old guy. All right, Luke. This next bit was me all
Dude,
week.
when I go to Colombia, you know how hard it is for me to like find a time when the fucking walls are not thumping.
Yeah,
it's 24/7.
What's up? Luke, this was me all week reacting to the negative comments to my Ngannou joke.
Okay, what the fuck is the point of this?
It'll make him tougher, Luke.
Did it make you tougher?
Yeah.
Getting feedback
Getting
like that?
bodied.
Jesus.
Yeah. Luke, podcast number 1 for MMA fighters doesn't always go well. You remember Bryce Mitchell on his first episode?
Yeah, the Hitler one.
Yeah, here's Chiwiwi's on his.
So Jimena, what are you gonna do when Drake puts the 9 inches in you? Oh wait.
What the fuck? You know, hey, that's got.
Oh, okay.
Hey, listen, if you're into reading books, there's an alternative to this.
Dude, that's like 1995 humor right there. Like that would go
That's
over
not
well.
even. That's 1995 humor if you're 13 years old.
All right. There we go. One more for you, Luke.
等一下。
I'm glad to see that manners and gentlemanship has not left us. Watch this.
公主，请下车。
That's the shit of the week. Maybe not the best batch we've had, but
Yeah, I mean that's a C-.
I hope you have seen that.
Yeah, that's the C-. That wasn't your best effort. That's okay.
All right, we're still alive there. Thank you very much for playing and watching. I hope you guys are doing well. I don't know what else to say really. Oh, dude, Sabu, R.I.P. The ECW,
How did he?
Sabu.
This is the pro wrestling guy.
Yeah, the pro wrestling guy.
How did he die? Or did he die? He died.
Well, he'd been in horrific health, but he just had his retirement match at age 60 against Joey Janela, where during WrestleMania weekend, where there was like barbed wire ropes, like death match, and he put himself through hell, and then died a few weeks later, like a real man.
Did he? What was the cause?
I don't actually know that.
Is it related to the match?
I mean, maybe.
How old was he?
60. I mean, dude, Sabu at his prime, for as much as you tune into ECW in the late 90s when you got home from the bar drunk and high, as much as it was for the just next level absurdities, Sandman, the drinking of the beer, those highlights of him doing backflips off the top rope, like into the crowd, knocking people over happily, was just some of the most insane shit I've ever seen. Just death-defying badassery.
I will never celebrate his death. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Thank you for the pro wrestling community for saying that.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. On that note,
the lead singer of 3 Doors Down has stage 4 cancer. Did you see this?
I'm sorry to hear that too.
Yeah.
Long Island Luke, thank you for working today. Any other deaths you want to report?
It's been a pleasure. I don't have any deaths to report. I do want to report that Ken has a Ridge wallet though. So shout out.
Holy shit!
Yeah, Ken. What colors you got there? Yeah, that looks like prison silver.
Yeah, Ken's got a Ridge wallet and also illicit narcotics on him. Let's be very clear about that.
Best sound man in the league. All right.
Yeah.
Today, or he's more than that. He's Ken.
Yeah, he's also my dealer.
All right. All right. That's the show. Hope you had fun. Thank you for playing. That's Luke Thomas. I'm Brian Campbell. We'll be back Friday. 11 a.m.
Hey,
Eastern.
There is a good main event this weekend. Morales and Burns.
Yes, there is.
Good one. Good one.
Anything going on in the box? I'm trying to remember.
Nothing I'm paying attention to.
All right. All right. Yeah, you're married. I forgot. For Luke Thomas, I'm BC. We're out of here.
All the smoke fighters headed to the Hall of Fame. That's right. This year's International Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend in boxing's hometown, Canastota, New York, takes place from Thursday, June 5th through Sunday, June 8th, ending with an annual ceremony immortalizing boxing's all-time greats.
The International Boxing Hall of Fame are hosting fan events and experiences all weekend long. On Friday night, June 6th, Salida Promotion will present a terrific fight card in association with All the Smoke Fight, live on DAZN from the Turning Stone Resort Casino in Ramona, New York. Featuring USBA heavyweight champion Brandon Moore, defending his title against undefeated prospect Stanley Wright in the main event. Plus a stacked undercard featuring world champion Franchon Cruz DAZN and rising prospects JJ Pagan and DeVell Smith.
Sounds to me, we're going to have a great fight night. And of course, Sunday, the ceremony to induct the class of 2025. Legends like Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, Michael second to none, and the Tasmanian Devil, Vinny Paz.
Join All the Smoke Fight and Salida Promotion at Turning Stone Resort Casino for this year's International Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend.
Hey, listen, visit turningstone.com for accommodations and tickets to Friday's fight night. Visit IBHOF.com for the full induction weekend schedule.